This is Sky Sports.
For the first time in its 8-year history, the Indy Racing League travels outside the United States to Japan's most modern racetrack, the twin-ring Motegi. Both Japanese manufacturers will be keen to win on home soil, and there are 4 local drivers in the field too. So everything is set for the Indy Japan 300. Hello there, welcome to round 3 of the 2003 Indy Racing League. Victories so far this season for Scott Dixon and Tony Canan in a pair of action-packed races, and today's event really should be full of excitement. Lots of news too, so let's first of all check out the headlines. Now the big news is that our own Dario Franchitti is a non-starter. He fell off a friend's MV Augusta bike a few days ago and injured his back, and his place at Andretti Green Racing is taken by fellow Briton Dan Weldon. Still on the injured list after his fiery Phoenix accident is Gilles de Ferran. He's replaced at Penske by the former IRL winner Alex Barron. And meanwhile, former IRL champion Greg Ray returns to the series, and he's put his own team together from the remnants of Blair Racing. And after a rained-out qualifying session, Scott Dixon is on the pole on the basis of his earlier practice time. So a great race then in prospect, and to guide us through, 2 of our regular pundits, Rob Murphy and Paul Cherry. They're both with me, and with them the man who's won both rounds of the Infinity Pro Series this year, Mark Taylor. The Pro Series is of course the feeder championship to the IRL, and as the cars aren't racing in Japan, we're pretty lucky that Mark's been able to join us today. So gentlemen, welcome to you all. Mark, first of all, you've switched from the British F3 Series to American Oval Racing this year, and so far remarkable success. Just tell us a bit about winning at Homestead and Phoenix.
Yeah, I've had the opportunity to drive with Panther Racing, and it's one of the best teams in the series this year, and especially the last 2 years. So to have that opportunity to be able to go over there and hopefully step up into the IRL as well, I had to grab with both hands, and the first 2 races couldn't have gone any better. At Miami, I led from the first lap. We had a little problem with the car, and I turned the engine off in the first race to fall back into second, but I was able to take the lead again and go on to win that one.
But terrific stuff. It must be, you know, what you dreamt that might possibly happen, not knowing that it was going to.
Yeah, of course, you take any opportunity you can to move up the ladder, as it were, and this one was the best opportunity that I had for this year, and to be able to win 2 races, especially after the year I had in Formula 3 last year, this year started off completely differently.
Yeah. Now, you've been driving, of course, for the Panther team as understudy to Sam Hornish, the 2001-2002 IRL champion. He's been struggling a bit this year, hasn't he? Because basically Chevrolet not able to keep up with the Japanese on the horsepower. Does he have any chance at all today?
They were all disappointed at Miami. The car wasn't working through the race. They were struggling in the second pit stop. They felt that they'd made the wrong change with the car. At Phoenix, they felt that they had a great car. They were moving through the pack. So I see good things here. As long as they can keep going, I feel that they'll have the car set up well and they'll have a good race car.
Yeah, thank you for that. Well, Paul, you've been to Motegi several times. Tell us a bit about this track. It's obviously different. It's obviously unusual.
It's a terrific facility, David. It cost a fortune. Honda built it out of 2 mountains and a valley. It's a strange circuit in as much as you have this huge wide radius at one end and a narrow radius at the other, with 2 same length straights linking it. But it makes for some very, very exciting racing. And the crowd, believe it or not, come from miles around to view it. And as I say, it's a great facility.
Good test for drivers.
Massively, and the car, because again it's one of these tracks where you're not keeping your foot down all the time. You'll be braking hard for the narrower corner, you'll be changing down, a lot of moving around, and a lot of people trying to take advantage of mistakes.
Yeah, and do you like the idea of using this track as a venue?
It's a very good venue. I mean, you have to say that any really good oval venue makes a good race, and this is one of the best in the world.
Okay, thanks. Rob, let's just bring you in on this, because we know that 8 of the drivers in today's field have raced there before when they were ghosting kart races. Is that going to help anyone or them, or how will that work out?
Well, I think it'll help them a little bit, but these guys learn so quickly. They haven't had as much running as they would like to have had because we've had some rain, but I think they'll all catch up, to be honest. So I don't think it'll be a huge advantage almost already at this point once we get to this stage in the race.
And what do you make of this circuit? We've heard about it from Paul, but it sounds very exciting to me.
Yeah, it's a great facility. It's also a very wide track, so we're going to see 2, 3 cars abreast all the time, maybe even 4. One of the drivers was talking about maybe even seeing 5 cars wide. I don't know if that's going to happen, so it's going to give us a great race.
And a good test for both the men and the machine.
Oh yeah, for sure, because it's hard to set the car up for both sets of turns, if you like. You've got a faster section of the track and then the relatively slower turns 3 and 4. So getting the car set up for the track completely is tough. And again, it's going to be good close racing. So.
Okay, well, the big news for British fans, of course, is that Dario Franchitti can't race because he hurt his back when he fell off a friend's MV Augusta whilst visiting his family in Scotland, and I presume team boss Michael Andretti will be less than impressed. But it does mean that Dan Weldon starts his IRL campaign a race early. So, Rob, what are your thoughts on all this? It sounds all a bit unfortunate, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the racing drivers like their fast toys, don't they? But, I mean, it is a bit of a mistake, but, you know, it can happen. You know, bad news for Franchitti, good news for Dan Weldon. It's great to see him getting a run this early in the year. Yeah, I think Franchitti wanted to take the first win or second win for Honda this year and win on Honda's home ground, so he'll be really disappointed about that.
I know.
Maybe Weldon or Andretti can do it for him.
But when a fun ride turns into something like this, it all becomes a bit serious, doesn't it?
Yeah, very serious. I mean, I guess a lot of drivers have it in their contract that they can't do, you know, dangerous things like ride motorcycles when they're not racing. But, but obviously he didn't have that, or I assume he didn't.
No, Mark, you must have some sympathy, because Dario must be enormously frustrated, quite apart from annoyed with himself.
Especially having been there before, he'll have been to see the track and he'll know that it's a great facility, so he'd have been enjoying it, enjoy having the chance to go out there. So, but I think as far as Dan's concerned, he'd be glad to be able to get a race under his belt before the Indy 500.
OK, boys, thank you very much indeed. Well, there will be, of course, more time for comment once the race itself has got underway. Right now, then, let's cross to Motegi, and we can join our commentators Gary Lee and Larry Rice.
Today, live from Twin Ring Motegi Super Speedway, it's the Indy Japan 300, the third race of the 16-race Indy Racing League IndyCar Series, and the first IRL race scheduled outside the United States. Hi, everybody, I'm Gary Lee alongside Larry Rice. Rain washed out qualifying yesterday, and the starting grid was determined by the best practice times in the 3 practice sessions, which put young Scott Dixon on the front row. But right now we have dry conditions. It is sunny. Weather should not be a factor here this afternoon. It is beautiful here in Japan. The cherry blossoms are out. It is springtime, and the first time for these race cars, Larry, outside the continental U.S.
And they're very excited to be here, believe me.
Tony Canan, who was our winner the last outing at Phoenix, now leading by 9 points in the point standings over Elio Castroneves. Scott Dixon, the winner at Homestead, is now third. And as you take a look at the 7th through 12th position, there's Sarah Fisher. Great show she put on at Phoenix. She is 11th, and Tomas Schechter is in the 12th position. 24 cars are lined up in the pit area to do battle on this 1.5-mile oval, a very unusually shaped racetrack. And it's going to be a fun racetrack for these guys to compete on.
Yes, it's a 1.5-mile racetrack, but it's very different shape. It's like a paperclip. 1 and 2 are very wide open corners. You can see the front and back straightaway are the same lengths, and the banking is the same, but the corners are very different. 1 and 2 wide open, big wide. Down in 3 and 4, it's a much tighter corner. You're going to have to pull a lower gear to get off of that corner.
Well, there's also elevation change. You go uphill, you go downhill, kind of like what we saw at Orlando a few years ago.
It's most like St. Louis. That's the closest it comes to any racetrack in the United States. Uphill into 1 and 2, where it's a big wide open corner. You're flat out through 1 and 2. Then downhill into the sharper corner where you have to actually get off the throttle.
20 degrees, our temperature, humidity at 64%, light variable winds, partly cloudy is the forecast. The weather forecast had called for rain today as we arrived here earlier this week, but that was taken out of the forecast this morning. We had some damp conditions. In fact, the morning warm-up was delayed because of fog and a wet racetrack. The Indy Racing League only brought 2 jet dryers over because they were limited to the space on those cargo planes. as we'll take a look at the starting grid. And once again, based on practice speeds this weekend, Scott Dixon and Tony Canan, the two race winners so far this season, will occupy the front row, with Scott being the fastest in practice. In row 2 on the inside, we have Tora Takaki and Thomas Schechter. Thomas, of course, from Cape Town, South Africa. Takagi, one of the favorites here in Japan this weekend. In the third row, Danny Weldon, who is subbing for the injured Dario Franchitti. He will start alongside Kenny Breck, who has some experience here at this racetrack. In fact, he has found victory lane here at this racetrack in the past. There is the all-Kelly Racing team. Row 4, Scott Sharp, a former Indy Racing League champion, and Al Unser, his teammate, starting outside in row 4. In the fifth row, it's Felipe Giafoni and Michael Andretti, and Michael Andretti is hearing that swan song rev up. Only 2 more races in his IndyCar racing career. In row 6 on the inside, this is the Roger Penske row. Elio Castroneves and Alex Barron, who is driving for the injured Gilles de Ferran. A good ride for Alex Barron. He may have a 3rd Penske car at the Speedway next month. And look at this. These two kids raced against each other in Ohio in karts as youngsters. They start side by side in row 7. Sam Hornish, the 2-time defending IRL champion, and young Sarah Fisher back there in row 7. In the 8th row, the leading rookie candidate so far, Roger Yasukawa from Los Angeles, and Jacques Lazier, also residing in California, grew up in the Vail, Colorado area. Buddy Lazier, his brother, a former Indy 500 champion and IRL champion, starts alongside the younger of the Foyt clan, 18-year-old AJ the 4th. There's Robbie Buell and Buddy Rice having trouble in practice. They'll be starting at the back of the pack in row 10. Row 11, Shinji Nakano and Shigeaki Hattori in All Japan row 11. Row 12, Greg Ray, and rounding out the field, Scott Mayer in car number 18.
Yeah, Greg Ray
200-lap event over a 1.5-mile racetrack.
Yes, and Greg Ray had trouble here. It's a brand new team. He had to be towed in a couple of times this morning, so they were still trying to iron the bugs out with that thing. But once again, brand new team, first time they've ever run here, and we see the wave, a very popular thing here in the United States. I didn't know they did that over there. 200 laps, 483 kilometers, 300 miles. The pole sitter, Scott Dixon, by virtue of having the fastest practice lap of the weekend, and this is the inaugural event. 50 laps approximately before you have to make a fuel stop here.
Well, this track was built and opened back in 1997. It can seat about 68,000, but they expected about 62,000. That's really all the fire marshals would allow in here this weekend. So we had 45,000 in advance sales. They expect a full 15 to 17,000 in walk-up, and it looks like we're going to have a full house here this afternoon, only a few minutes away from the command to start the engines when racing here in Japan. Now the cars are on the racetrack. There's a look at Michael Andretti. As we indicated, he will retire following his final Indianapolis 500 next month. At the age of 40, he is now a part owner in this green Andretti operation, and he says he's going to focus all of his attention as a car owner.
Yeah, and he says that he has to do this. He has to maintain his focus on owning this thing. Eddie Cheever's doing the same thing. He was supposed to run Indianapolis. He's decided he's not going to do that now because the ownership, running the business, is such an important part of IndyCar racing that you have to focus on it 100%. So and driving is the same way. You can't do it halfway. You've got to do it 100%. And so both of these gentlemen have decided.
You can't think of the phone calls you have to return when you're going to the backstretch at Indianapolis.
You can't worry about whether you're going to have to spend, how much money you're going to have to spend if you crash the car. All you can think about is driving the car. And of course, when you're an owner, you've got to think about all the other things.
Looking off the car now of the team that defending champion, Sam Hornish. He'll start back in the 13th position inside row 7.
Yes, and like we said earlier, he was much quicker this morning with this new engine than he had been earlier in the week, so maybe that's a good omen for him. I know he'd like to have an upfront starting position.
Look how wide this racetrack is, Larry. 80 feet wide all the way around. By comparison, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway has straightaways at 50 feet and turns at 60. This is a very wide racetrack, and we'll see some 2-wide racing. I don't know if we'll see 3-wide, but the drivers have said that next to Indy, this may be the best racetrack that they have to race on.
All the drivers really rave about this racetrack and the fans here. They like the fans. The fans are very, very courteous to them, and they're really enthusiastic.
Well, there was a bump over in turn 3 the drivers complained about, but after a test session last fall with Hornish, that has been ground down. They are now complimentary. The track is very smooth. And this is going to be one racy joint as an unusually shaped racetrack with a lot of elevation change and banking. This is going to be fun. The youngster is on the pole, Scott Dixon, and he was a surprise winner for the Target Ganassi team back in the season opener at Homestead, Florida. Then Tony Canan, who has been qualified for the pole position the last 2 outings, will start outside the front row by virtue of his practice speed over the weekend. As we take a look at that starting grid again, there you see Dixon and Canan in the front row, Takagi and Schechter in row 2. The third row is Weldon and Brack. Then it's Sharp and Unser and Team Kelly. The fifth row, there you see the all Penske row 6 of Castroneves and Alex Barron as you look at the rest of the starting grid. Good wide racetrack. We talked about the elevation change as they kind of go uphill into turn 1, that very wide sweeping racetrack where it's flat out. Then the track kind of drops off. They go downhill to a much tighter radius turn 3 and 4. And we could actually see some downshifting during the race this afternoon.
Yeah, especially if they get into traffic down there, because they're going to have to really keep the RPMs up if they don't want to shift. And I think we'll see some of the guys shifting down there in turns 3 and 4 just because of the way the racetrack is shaped.
Well, they're strung out right now, but race control is saying 1 lap before we go green. You look back there at Michael. He has led the most laps of any driver that has not won at Indianapolis. He's led 398 laps at Indy, and he'd like to lead the 200th lap on May 25th.
Yeah, he certainly would. That's his goal. He wants to win the Indianapolis 500. He wants to go out on top.
Takagi will start in the 3rd position.
That's a very good starting spot for him.
There's Roger Yasukawa, who is the leading rookie in the Bombardier rookie standings. Still strung out just a little bit here if they turn them loose.
Yeah, they're all trying to catch up, get in line.
Now the pace car remains out, and now the back of the field, the stragglers starting to roll into position and form up 2 by 2 into that 10-degree banking into turn 3. This is the tight radius.
You can kind of see the difference in color down there. That's probably where that grinding was done to take that bump out of turn 3 that everybody had complained about. Now they have it fixed.
Now the pace car is off the track, and here they roll off the corner. Scott Dixon, the youngster from Auckland, New Zealand, brings them down for the green flag, and we are underway. The first race outside the continental U.S. for the Indy Racing League, the IndyCar Series.
Well, he got a terrific start, and Takagi followed him through, running in second. Now Canan stays on the outside all the way to turns.
Look at this, 3 and 4 wide down this really wide straightaway. They're scrambling for position, and who's going to have it coming off the corner?
Wow. I think Canan was on the outside. Yeah, he came by leading, but man, oh man, those guys really. Schechter finishes that first lap in 2nd place, and Dixon, who looked like the big leader there to begin with, ended up 5th going across the start and finish line.
Man, they're scrambling for position. 3 and 4 wide on these wide straightaways, and you can see why these drivers like this track so much. There's a whole lot of racing room.
Yeah, down that back straightaway, they did run 4 abreast into turns 3 and 4, and Canan just outbraved everybody.
Well, right now, Takagi has gone to 2nd. Schechter drops to 3rd. Benny Breck is in the 4th position, and Dixon drops from the pole back to 5th.
Well, Takagi got a great start. He was right behind Dixon going through turns 1 and 2, but evidently those guys got a big draft off him going through turns 1 and 2 and came off, and Canan just blew right on by him. Look at Takagi, though. I believe he's catching him.
Tony Canan had the pole position at both of the last 2 races, and may have had a shot at the pole, but once again, rain washed out qualifying, so they went by the best practice time. They had 3 practice sessions before the rain set in yesterday afternoon.
And you can see they're getting strung out just a little bit right now, but still some pretty good racing going on. And you can tell these guys pushing, coming. This is off of turn number 4 out towards the wall. It looks like they've couple of those guys have picked up a little bit of a push in that area.
The drivers complain about trying to find the delicate balance on this racetrack because there's so many variables, from the really fast wide corner, the wide radius in the first and second corners, to the much tighter radius of 3 and 4.
Right. That's Scott Sharp and Dixon that we're watching there. Sharp has gotten around him. Dixon has fallen back to 9th place here early in the going, so not having quite the run he had hoped for. There he comes back.
This is the move to the inside. Gets a nice toe and pulls to the inside and goes by Scott Sharp.
Scott Sharp stays on the outside. Thought he might try to do the same thing Canan did, but couldn't do it.
Tell you what, the Penske cars did not practice all that well. They started back in row 6, and once again Alex Barron, who finished 5th in the season championship last year for Blair Racing, is subbing for the injured Jill DeFerrin. You saw Jill's grinding wreck late in the Phoenix race. He is setting this one out. He'll be ready for Indianapolis. And Dario Franchitti is also out of this race, and we'll talk about that momentarily as car number 24, Robbie Buell, has made an early and unscheduled pit stop.
Yeah, he's had some engine trouble earlier in the weekend, and obviously still hasn't got all that solved. Ooh, Castroneves tried to go to the inside of Sharp. Sharp headed for the down on the bottom, and he had to get on the brakes hard in order to avoid a collision right there.
We mentioned Franchitti. He was on his way over here to stop off to visit his family. He's now living in Nashville, Tennessee, but he is from Scotland near Edinburgh, and stopped by to see his family and friends, and was riding a motorcycle and had a spill and broke a lower boat in the back.
Cracked the vertebrae as we ride along with Michael Andretti.
Once again, a 200-lap event being led now by Tony Canan. Coggy rides in second. Schechter is third.
And you can see there he did shift gears.
Schechter has dropped back to 4th position as Brack went around. Let's see where he shifts back. We'll wait to see him reach down there. Oh, wow. He just lost a position. Was that Schechter that blew by him on that?
The yellow flag came out.
Oh, that's what it was.
And he was off of the throttle.
Scott Mayer, that's the first.
Yeah, you can see that he's
side of that car.
That's off of turn number 4. We talked about some of the cars, that corner being a very, very tight corner, and the cars want to push up next to the wall. Obviously, he got a little closer than he wanted because that right rear is pretty far out of shape as he sits there on the racetrack. The right front's hit it too.
So 9 laps complete. We are under yellow here at the Twin Ring Motegi, and right away the officials are out there. They didn't bring all the gear they normally bring because of a lack of space in those cargo planes. It's about a 13-hour flight from San Francisco. Now, some of the charter flights left from San Francisco last Sunday, and there were a couple of flights that actually left from New York, but across the top of the world, basically. It's still about a 13-hour flight.
Yeah, and you can see Scott Mayer's okay. They're trying to get everything unhooked and get him out of the race car. But you can see right there, he went up there and just body slammed the wall with the whole right side of the car coming off of turn number 4. He's got no control. The brakes aren't working. Nothing's working right there. He's just kind of rolling to a stop as that thing drags the bottom.
In case he may have just pushed up there and ran out of racetrack.
Yeah, I think he did. I think he just got up in the wall, didn't get out of the throttle quick enough, and he just, like I said, he body slammed the wall. And he's not very happy with himself right there, it doesn't look like.
Once again, this will change the pit window. We had thought that this would be about a 3-stop race, and the edge of the window would be about 50 laps into the event. This obviously will give the drivers a little leeway on that opening window. Gary Lee and Larry Rice live for the Indy Japan 300. They pick up the throttle coming through the corner, coming back for the green. Tony Canan brings them down. We are racing again. The restart on lap 16.
Oh, look at this.
Look at this, Larry.
Andretti to the inside. He doesn't look like a guy that's getting ready to retire, but once he went through there, he pushed up and nobody got back around him, but he went in that corner pretty hard.
We're watching that right hand seam shift gears.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a restart, so they started in a little lower gear.
Now he downshifts into 3. You saw that patch where they resurfaced the turn. There's Scott Sharp in that yellow and red car.
Yeah, we thought a lot of these guys, or some of these guys, might choose to do that. Obviously, Michael is one of them that has chosen to shift gears and geared his car accordingly.
Giafone to the inside of Scott Sharp. That is a change of position. He goes to 6th spot. Sharp drops to 7th.
Yeah, Castroneves also went by him when he got on the outside there. They both took advantage of that. Both went by him.
And Dixon's tucked up behind him.
Yeah, Dixon didn't get a very good restart. He, for some reason, the starts for him are not very good. He fell back to 9th the last time. Now then, once he gets the thing wound up, he seems like, oh, man.
A little close there. I wonder what Mom and Dad are thinking. They're watching in New Zealand.
Yes, they are, and I think they all just about gasped right there because he had to get on the, you could see the dust flying off his left side tires. He was so far down. And now then 2 other cars get underneath him.
Oh, there is contact. There is the winglet on the right front.
That's Barron, I think. That's Barron. He got together with him, just barely touched him. He's going to head in and get a new, he's got to get a new nose piece on that thing. Just barely touched the left rear of Dixon's car. Now we'll have to see if Dixon has a flat tire, because those things, even though he just touched him and tore that off, he could have punctured the left rear tire on Dixon's car.
Thankfully for Barron, it happened just before the pit entrance. He made a dive across the racetrack to get in the pits.
Well, he's going to be lucky, though, to get back out without losing very much space.
The yellow did not come out. Now, that wing actually
Yeah, the yellow did come out.
Did it come out?
I think the pace car was just heading out, so that wing, the debris on the track, is going to give him a break. I think he'll still lose at least 1 lap, but at least he won't lose 3 or 4 that he normally would have.
So the Penske crew goes to work, puts the new wing on car number 6, the second yellow of the afternoon.
Yeah, you can see them right. That was a very good job, very quick job. They got that on there, but still, believe. Let's see. But he's.
Well, you'll watch again. Here's the contact.
Dixon was coming down the racetrack a little bit. Dixon, I don't believe, knew he was there. Man, he just clipped that wing just ever so slightly. And look what happens. That car took off right for the wall as soon as that happened. Took all the downforce off of the right front. And Barron did a great job to keep that thing on.
Kept it off the wall, and he let the field go by and took a sharp left turn and headed for the pit area.
Yeah, while we're talking about Dixon, we want to say hello to his mom and dad, Ron and Glennis Dixon. They're down in Manukau, New Zealand at the Silo Bar and Grill, along with a couple of friends, Will and Glennis. They're all watching this thing, so we want to say hello to you. We're here down there, all big IRL fans, and I'm sure they're all Scott Dixon fans at this point, and are a little bit relieved that he's still on the racetrack after there's 2 close calls.
It's going into their winter season, the fall of the year for them. Maybe we could make a trip to this pub this winter, our winter, their summer.
That would be a good thing.
We'll see you down there. You can be our tour guides down there. So our second yellow of the afternoon could have been a lot more serious than that. And look at this. The pits are open and a little early for what we had anticipated, but all the drivers taking advantage of this yellow to stop, top off the fuel and change the tires.
Well, they have to take advantage of the yellow. You can't stay out there and take a chance on pitting under the green. In a case like this, the leader comes in, everybody's going to come in. That's Roger Yasukawa. Got in and out pretty quickly. Looked like a nice pit stop for him.
Watch this, right in front of Yasukawa, and it hit his left. Maybe, yeah, hit the tire.
It hit the tire. He was very lucky. If that had hit one of the steering arms, even those aren't very, they're not very heavy, they're not very strong. If it had hit one of those steering arms, it could have been the steering arm, could have been big problems, but it hit the tire instead.
Well, Canan stayed out. He did not make the pit stop. Some of those back in the pack did. Kenny Breck now in 2nd position. Kagi is 3rd. Andretti is now 4th. Schechter restarts in 5th. Then Giafone, Sharp, Castroneves, Unser Jr. is the 9th position. And Dan Weldon rounds out the top 10 as the frontal flag indicates 1 more lap before we turn them loose.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised that more guys didn't stop, but mostly it was the guys near the back of the first half. They wanted to get off sequence. They knew if they're running 10th, 12th, 14th, the only way they had a chance of getting off sequence and maybe gaining a lap on the faster cars was to make a pit stop now. So that's the reason they all came in.
On these pit stops, the pit boxes are 45 feet in length. They're just 2 feet shy of the big pit boxes at Indianapolis, so plenty of room to get in and out for the service in the pits.
Right.
As we'll see the speeds pick up as they come down this restart. See what Kenny Breck may have in store for Tony Canan as they come off the corner. They take the green flag, and right away Andretti again looks to the inside.
Boy, he's getting some great restarts. Down on the inside of Takagi right there. Takagi gives him enough room. He goes on by. So he's really gotten 2 or 3, well, at least the last 2 restarts have been really, really great.
Thomas Scheckter back there in the 5th position. And Schecter's all over this pair as well.
Very right along with Takagi.
On the front straightaway, there's the pit area off to your left, the grandstand to your right. With a 10-degree banking of turns 1 and 2. See how wide this racetrack is.
You can hear it never lifts through 1 and 2. It's a wide open uphill into that corner, so you're not gaining as much speed down the back straightaway. Oh, look at this! He's going to go back after Andretti. Andretti
runs side by side through the corner, off the turn, and he may have him by the front wing.
Andretti's got the momentum on the outside there. No, he doesn't get. He's not able to do it. I thought he might have enough momentum to go back by him going into turn 1, but he didn't. Kenny Brack has taken the lead. Meanwhile, while we're watching this battle, there's battles all over the racetrack. Kenny Brack has taken the lead.
So Canan led the first 24 circuits of this race. Kenny Brack now takes over in lap 25 to be our second leader of the afternoon. Driving for Team Ray Hall, that team co-owned by Dave Letterman, the late night television host.
That is Kenny Brack that we're looking at. I think we were wrong with that. We thought we were looking at 2 Pioneer cars painted almost identical, and we were looking at Kenny Brack going around Canan.
And we were looking at 2 711 cars painted just alike.
Pioneer cars and the 711 cars running 1, 2, 3, and 4 here, just kind of mixing it up amongst themselves all of a sudden. That was Kenny Brack. And he, of course, he has won here before. He likes this racetrack, makes no bones about it. Now then, we see. Well, that was a pass. That was Takagi. He's hanging on to 4th place. Scheckter tried to get around him and didn't make it work.
Giafone, and back that yellow and the red car of Scott Sharp.
Well, Thomas Scheckter had a great year last year for about 2/3 of the season. Although he crashed a lot, he was always up front. He was fast everywhere.
Won at Michigan.
Got hooked up with Ganassis. Expected to come out of the box running well, and he is running well. But here today, running back in 5th spot, and just kind of hanging on. He's fallen back since he made that challenge to Takagi.
The Indy Racing League debuted in 1996, but the competition has never been stronger than what it is right now in 2003.
No, that's right. Now Takagi is catching up with Andretti. And look at this.
That's Giafone on the inside of Scheckter.
Giafone making a move as he's.
It's hard to stay on top of all of the competition around this racetrack.
There's. All it takes is just a slight error. It seems like the big place that they're able to gain advantage is down in 3 and 4. If you get through 3 and 4 really well, you got a great run down that front straightaway.
Well, he thought he was going to have a run at him into turn 3. As you look back from the 3rd position running Michael Andretti.
Yeah, Takagi was right behind him but had to get out of the throttle. Once you get out of the throttle just a little bit in a place where you don't normally get out of the throttle, you lose a lot of ground. You can see he was right behind him. Now then he's fallen back about 6 car lengths, and it'll take him a lap or 2 to gain that momentum back and catch him. And then you'll have to time it perfectly to make that pass.
Scott Dixon has dropped all the way back to 15th position. Barron stayed on the lead lap after he changed the front wing on that Penske car. He's back in now 15th, make that 16th position.
Well, he might have had some damage when he made that contact with Alex Barron earlier.
Let's watch if we stay on this shot here. If he downshifts, no, he upshifts there.
He got a great run on him. Got a great run on him.
As you take a look at Castro-Neves, now Castro-Neves is where is he in the? He's back in 13th position. So right now the Penske cars are not running where we normally expect them to run at this juncture in the race.
No, they're having some problems earlier in the race.
So Andy Brack is your leader over Tony Canan, Michael Andretti, as we've completed now 31 of 200 circuits. And you hear the RPMs into turn 3. Downshifts right there. Now if we stay on board, we'll see where he actually picks up the gear shift. On the front straightaway, here the RPM start to raise. He was on one of the start-finish line before he upshifted.
Yeah, he's about halfway down when he finally makes that shift.
Here comes Schechter.
Schechter to the outside of him. So
Schechter close to the outside wall. Is he going to try this on the outside?
Andretti wasn't going to give him
Still
room.
tries the outside groove.
Yeah.
Didn't work though.
He's got a little bit of a push. He had to get out of the throttle and pull back down to the inside, but he gave her a shot.
That's a gutsy move on the high side.
Yes, it is. Down there.
He's going to try again.
It's much tougher to run the outside down in turns 3 and 4.
Oh, look how close they got. He may make the pass stick this time. Off the corner, he uses the momentum and takes the position. Schechter has moved around Andretti into 4th position.
Well, I think Andretti started to move. He was kind of pushing out towards the wall, and he had to get out of the throttle in order to keep him running into Schechter. And when he did, Schechter just went right on by him.
That may have been a case of a 40-year-old saying to a 22-year-old, okay, it's early in the race, just go ahead and go.
That may be right, too.
You went this turn more than... Yeah, but look at this. Here comes Giaffoni on the inside. And Giaffoni smokes by Andretti. So, could there be a problem in car number 7?
Wow.
Then here comes Sharp. Sharp takes a look to the inside.
Yes.
Something's amiss in that car.
Yeah, the handling has gone away on that car somehow because he was so strong right after that yellow flag, and the longer he runs, the more problems he seems to have. So that's not a good sign for him.
Saw him reach up and hit the talkback button.
Uh-oh.
Oh, crash here. Is that Buell or is that Sarah?
I think that's Sarah Fisher.
Looks like Sarah in car number 23.
Yeah, that's down in turns 3 and 4. She's spun around, hit with the left side of the car.
So the yellow is out here. Sarah is still in the cockpit. We are under our 3rd yellow of the afternoon. There is young Sarah Fisher, who has brought out the yellow after 37 laps as she spun around and obviously got the left side of the race car. Talking to the emergency crew, shaking her helmet. She apparently is okay. There's Dave Brown on the left side of the race car, off your right as you're looking at the screen.
Yeah, she does seem to be moving around. Doesn't seem to be any urgency. They're taking all the bracing and so forth off so that she can get out of the car. But tough break for Sarah Fisher. She had high hopes. She had run as well as any of the Chevrolets here. This was as fast as Sam Hornish. She and Sam Hornish were the 2 fastest Chevrolets, as a matter of fact, in the practice earlier all week long.
Hello again. Welcome back to our coverage of Indy Japan 300. As you saw just a moment ago, in fact, the race currently under its 3rd yellow. Sarah Fisher involved in an accident which thankfully didn't look too serious, but we'll get the thoughts of the guests here and also what they think of the race so far generally. Sarah fortunately didn't look too badly damaged and the car didn't look too impacted, Paul.
No, it's just a suspension job. A sort of mere $50,000 will probably put that right. I think it's probably an ego job more than anything. It's sad for Sarah because she's literally running on a race-by-race situation.
And there she is being led away. She's obviously not too badly hurt, thank goodness.
That's excellent. That's excellent.
What do you make of her progress generally, and how do you think she's shaping up these days?
She is without a doubt one of the best female racers I've seen in a long time. The problem is at the moment she has the pressure of not knowing if she's going to be in the next race. She does know she's in the Indy 500,
yeah,
but she doesn't know if she's in any races thereafter because they haven't got substantial funding for that team, which is a great shame because she's very promotable and she's quick. We've seen her lead races last year and this year.
Mark, how do you rate her? Because I know you know her on a social level as well, obviously, and you know, you sort of mix and you get to know all these people on the circuit, but how do you assess her?
Yeah, I'm fairly new to it, but she did a great job at Phoenix. To be able to run like she did, as you say, on the race-by-race budget, it's going to be very tough for her all the way through the year, and it's a shame to see her race finish so early, but hopefully she'll be able to step back into Indy and carry on the rest of the year.
What sort of character is she? I gather she took you off to a baseball game or something the other day.
Basketball, yeah.
Basketball.
The Indiana Pacers, I was lucky enough to get a couple of tickets for there, so Yeah, I mean, very friendly, relaxed, easygoing, enjoys.
She's got to be a tough kid, though. I mean, she's competing at such a high level.
To be able to do what she's doing, absolutely. As you say, she's one of the only female racers who have been able to make it this far. So all the best of luck to her, and I hope that she does well this year, definitely.
And Rob, I mean, you know, we sit here and we are in awe of the speed of these cars, the power of them, the way these people compete. And when you think that she's doing it at such a high level, sort of on a regular basis, it's a huge tribute to her.
Yeah, the guys have said it all, really. She's a fast racing driver, and she comes from short oval racing, not from go-karts, which a lot of racers come from. And so she's kind of really had a tough schooling, and she's proven herself at every level, including this one now. So it would be great to see her get a consistent ride, and maybe she'll get a good run at the 500, because that can make a big difference to getting a sponsor and continuing on for the year.
And on the race generally, what are your overall thoughts about these first 20-odd laps?
Well, it's hard to call right now. I think my man Tony Canan's going to win it, though. That's my guess.
Yeah, he looks good, doesn't he? Yeah. And the racing, Paul, are you pleased with the circuit? I see what you mean. It's a fascinating one.
Yeah, I mean, the race is exactly how I thought it would be. Extremely fast, extremely furious. But the yellows, we've had sort of 3 yellows already, so it's shaping up to be a little bit difficult for these guys under race circumstances.
OK, fellas, thank you very much indeed. We're now going to go back to the action. Once again, Larry Rice and Gary Lee.
Well, now we understand through radio contact with Michael Andretti, his car is OK despite the fact that he lost about 3 positions. Oh, look at Takagi. Well, they're sending him on, but I'm wondering if this gasket.
Yeah, he's going to have to. It looks like he's down to the inside, going to come back in because they pulled the hose apart, and the filler is still stuck in the fuel tank. So he's going to have to come in and get that pulled out. That's Bill Black.
Very fortunate there was no spark to ignite that.
He's very fortunate. That's right. There was a lot of fuel everywhere. Billy will have to come in and get that piece removed out of the fuel tank, because it leaves the fuel tank open. It can still slosh out of there, so they've got to get that out so that that flap can flap close.
Fortunately for him, we are still under yellow, and you saw how much time he lost there in the pit area.
Well, he will go to the end of the line, but
he'll be on the lead lap, though.
Yeah, he'll still be on the lead lap, so he still has a chance to win this race.
Had he done that under green, he'd have been at least a lap down.
Well, that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Well, now we're showing Dixon as the leader.
Yeah, Dixon did not stop. See, Dixon, Buddy Lazier, Rice, and Yasukawa all stopped at lap number 20. So this time they did not have to stop. I think most of them were in the back. Dixon stopped because he was in that contact. He wanted to make sure he did not have a flat tire. So he was the only one of the leaders that stopped that first time around.
And it could play to his liking being off sequence here. We remain under yellow with Scott Dixon being shown as our 3rd leader of the afternoon. Tony Canan led the first 24 circuits, then Kenny Brack took over for some 15 laps, and now after these pit stops, really the first round of pit stops for our leaders, Scott Dixon emerges as the leader. And we talked about that contact he had earlier with Alex Barron. Got out of sequence, but you count on some more yellows, so he has track position because he had to pit earlier.
Yeah, I mean, he's the only one. Buddy Lazier, Rice, and Yasukawa, none of those guys pitted. I mean, they pitted the first time around, so they didn't pit this time, so they're all up front. But really, Dixon was the only one of the leaders that pitted, and I think he did it because of the contact.
Well, see, if you roll the dice and you make that early stop and count on another yellow, if you get the yellow, you have your track position. If this yellow didn't come out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now we'll see how strong the Chevrolets are, though, with Rice and Buddy Lazier up front. We'll see if they can keep up with Dixon or keep some of those Hondas and Toyotas behind them. The Chevrolets obviously have not been as strong as they wanted to be all year long, but now then, if Sarah Fisher got up front the last time because of some pit stops and ran very well.
Very well at Phoenix.
Exactly.
Ran second for a long time.
Exactly.
Well, there's Buddy Rice in the Red Bull entry. That's the Team Cheever. Team Cheever will not have their namesake in the Indy 500. As you look at Roger Yasukawa, currently in 4th position. He had a nice ride at Phoenix as well. It has been announced that although we understand that car number 12 has been black flagged because of that altercation with the fuel hose, but we were about to say that Cheever will not race in the Indy 500. that says he'll come back and race all of next season, which I find to be a curious decision on his part. A past winner of the Indy 500, and every race a racer wants to drive in.
Yeah, we'll wait and see. I mean, once you get into the business end of this, it's very tough to come back and race again. You set out for a year, and I think Ari Leyendijk has found out how tough it is to come back.
Well, Leyendijk is coming back again at the age of 47, but since he announced his retirement as a regular driver, he's been coming back every year at the Speedway. He's not been all that competitive.
Well, that's what I mean. That's what I'm saying. It's very tough to come back. Oh!
Spin, and we're just picked up the throttle. Who was that? That looks like the 52 car of Rice.
It certainly does.
There will be no start. The yellow stays out. They were picking up the throttle on, well, he wouldn't have cold tires because he didn't make that pit stop.
No, he was in too low a gear and just got on the throttle and then broke.
Now wait a minute. Now wait a minute. Let's check the ruling here. Can he go back up there?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
He thought he could, but I think he's being told on the radio that he was the cause of the yellow, and he'll have to go to the back of the field.
He was cause for the race not restarting.
Well, yeah, right. He was the cause for the race.
He was the culprit.
He caused the yellow. He caused the yellow that didn't have to come back out because it was already out.
You've had too much sushi, or is that sake? That's for after the race, Larry. There's your restart, lap 46.
Look at Tony Canan back there already. He's making a move and going around Yasukawa. Yeah.
Oh, two cars involved up against the wall. Two cars and another yellow. Well, that's the three of Castro-Neves. And
well, we won't. Obviously, one of the Panasonic cars. We don't.
Yeah,
I believe that's Yasukawa. So Yasukawa, he was one of them that didn't stop. So he was up near the front, having a pretty good run, and obviously contact was made as they entered turns 1 and 2.
This will hurt Castro-Neves because he was second in the point standings after 2 races.
Yeah, and he was. He had a good run going. Yasukawa he started that restart in 4th position. Castro-Neves obviously got a great run on him and was trying to go around, and contact was made. So tough break for both those guys.
And our 4th yellow of the afternoon.
Yeah, and
we got a long ways to go.
Yeah, we got a long ways to go. We're not even 25% of the way through this race, and already we've lost a couple of cars to crashes.
Well, let's take a look at the replay, Larry, and see if we can point a finger on what happened.
Well, you can see the oil dry down there. There's some liquid running down the racetrack, but they put a lot of oil dry down there to try to soak that up.
Let's go on board with Michael Andretti and see what it looked like from his cockpit. Go see where the contact is.
Whoa!
Yasukawa. Oh, look at Andretti's save. What a save for Michael. Yasukawa just lost control and collected Castro-Neves.
Wow. Michael Andretti crashed and he just didn't happen. I don't know how.
Yasukawa. Now he loses control right here. Tries to save it. It's gone around. He collects Castro-Neves right there and takes him to the fence. But what a brilliant job of driving, and that is a reflex. That's driving by the seat of your pants on the part of Michael.
There's absolutely no way you can plan for that, and he did a terrific job. That thing was clear sideways, and believe me, when one of these things get that far sideways, to save it is almost impossible to do. Castro-Neves, he almost snuck by on the outside, but just right at the last minute, you know, he took him right into the wall. There was no place to go.
Yasukawa got out right away. They're working now with Castro-Neves. His teammate, Gilles Deferne, of course, was injured in the last outing at Phoenix, and we'll have to set this race out. I'll be back when practice begins on May 3rd for the Indianapolis 500 as Scott Dixon leads under yellow here in Japan. Good shot, Larry, as you look skyward. Well, I tell you what, yesterday there was some concern. There was weather in the forecast, and the race rain date was going to be tomorrow, and we thought we might be here an extra day. But here's Sarah.
Sarah, what happened?
Well,
I just went for a pass, and you know, we both got together. I'm gonna go look at the tapes and see, you know, what really happened. But you know, I'm not gonna blame it on anybody yet. I'm just disappointed that, you know, I couldn't be there at the finish to put on a really good show, because the Japanese fans are really good fans, and you know, Dry and Reinbold Racing needs to have a finish every race to be able to get to Indy. So who knows?
Is there a question mark now about you at Indianapolis in the 500?
Well, we don't have another 23 car, so we'll see.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you, Jack.
Jack Arute visiting with Sarah, and you see the disappointment because so much depends on these finishes to get on to the next race.
Yes, it does. And as she said, they don't have another 23
They
car.
don't have a deal put together yet.
They don't have a deal put together for sponsorship, so it makes it very difficult when you're going on a race-to-race basis when you have a crash like this, because the prize money plays a part in it, and keeping the car in one piece plays a part in it. And, you know,
it's just not the prize money, but the cost of repairing a car.
That's what I mean. You know, the price of repairing that thing, the whole cost factor comes into play, and they've been working extremely hard trying to put together some sponsorship, but they just haven't done it.
You know, as badly wrecked as it was, they could probably sell the parts to the fans over here and just leave the car over here and not ship it home.
That's right. There's Dan Weldon, who's doing a great job replacing Dario Franchitti, running 11th place. So he, of course, he ran for Panther Racing in the Infinity Pro Series a couple of times last year, and will move into this series full time. Well, as of now, I guess.
He was going to drive. Well, he's the test driver for this team.
Right.
And then he will move into this series full time after the 500. He actually ran a couple of the Indy Racing League events for it. Wasn't just the Indy Pro. It was
for Panther last year.
For Panther. Panther wanted to run a second team, in fact, this year, but simply did not have the sponsorship to do so. So Dario Franchitti on the sideline with that broken lower back from a motorcycle accident in his home country of Scotland. Right now, Weldon back in the 11th position. Gary Lee and Larry Rice coming to you live as we go racing for the first time outside the continental U.S. This is a 3-year deal, and I tell you what, talking to these drivers this weekend, they're happy to be here. The fans are so responsive. As you mentioned earlier, they want to bring gifts. They bring handmade gifts to these drivers. They're so appreciative, and this is just a phenomenal facility over here.
Yes, it is. Take a look at Dan Weldon still running around under the yellow. Getting a lot of good experience, running in 11th position, running very well. Hasn't been up challenging for the leads. You see both of those broken cars of Castroneves and Yasukawa being hauled off the racetrack.
You know, there's Robbie Buell, the teammate to Sarah Fisher, in the pits, out of pit sequence. We're seeing more and more test drivers in this league, and this is something relatively new to the Indy Racing League or to IndyCar racing, that there would be a separate test driver. Usually the assigned driver goes out and tests his own car.
Yeah, and a lot of these young guys, they are grooming to take over their, a spot on their team, and so that's why they're hiring them to go out and do the testing.
Well, Michael knew he was retiring, so it only made sense to bring in a test driver.
Right. And and you'll see other teams do that as time goes on, but it only makes sense. There's a lot of good young drivers out there.
Our fourth yellow of the afternoon for the Yasukawa and Castroneves crash. There's Scott Dixon. He won at Miami.
We'll see what kind of a restart he gets this time. He has got the first couple of starts he's had. He gets off the line pretty good, but it seems like once he gets through turns 1 and 2 and down the back straightaway, he's not as quick down that back straightaway. It takes a little while to get that thing wound up. Once he gets going, he's okay, but meanwhile he loses a little ground. Ooh.
Where's Canan going there?
I don't know.
Was this going to be a start?
Well, it was. Yeah, I think it was supposed to be. But
it was, but I'm not sure why the pace car stayed out. The pace car stayed out.
They were told that it was going to be a start, but the pace car stayed on the racetrack, so...
we had to block flank Johnny Rutherford for him and talk to Lone Star JR. The pace car is supposed to pull off as they come through turn 4, and John didn't that time, and there was some confusion on the restart. Well, there's Alex Barron now currently in 10th. He made that pit stop Remember the contact with Dixon earlier. He made the pit stop, changed the front wing under the yellow, did not lose a lap, and now he's back in 10th position.
Yeah.
So right now all the marbles for Roger Penske are in this cockpit.
Well, and this is a G-Force chassis. The previous 19 races for Roger Penske have all been in Delaras. They decided that going to Indianapolis, they wanted to know which was the best because the G-Forces have been running pretty good. So this is the first G-Force that Team Penske has ever put on the racetrack.
And that G-Force right now is in 10th position. Well, now we're being told from timing and scoring, no start again. So race control calls off the start for some reason.
Yeah, and they were told, you could see some of those guys in the back already getting on the throttle, and but they were told over the radio so that nobody, you know, really jumped the gun and ran into each other. So
we're hearing that they thought number 9, meaning Scott Dixon, brought them around at a pace too slow for the restart. So I'm sure that race control is in his ear right now. That's when the opportunity is there for race control to talk to these individual drivers on their headsets inside their helmets.
Well, they put cones up where they're supposed to pick up the throttle. He's supposed to pick up the throttle down there between 3 and 4, and he was halfway through and he was still going pretty slow. So they've told him to pay him, you know, he's going to pick up the throttle a little sooner this time so that they don't come off of turn 4 going quite that slow. You can see these guys back behind him look like they're getting a run on him already.
See what happens down the end of this front straightaway. Sam Hornish, not Scott Sharp in that yellow and red car pull the inside.
There goes
Canan.
Canan.
Scramble for position inside outside. Little dip and dive there by Tony Canan.
Tony Canan has gotten phenomenal starts both times. This is just like the original start where he got a big run through 1 and 2 on the outside. But Dixon this time doesn't look like he's given up near as easily though as he beats him into turn 3.
And he's going to retain that lead off the corner down to complete one more lap as they complete lap number 57. That was that 91 car of Lazier. Got very close to the outside wall coming off turn 4.
Boy, he certainly did. He got real close to the outside wall.
He's going to lose a couple of positions.
Canan, I'm impressed. Dixon didn't let Canan pull that on him that time. Now then, he goes down.
Look at Kenny Brack. He looked to the inside, then went to the high side. He's all over that rear wing of Canan.
Well, Canan doesn't want to do that very often. They're not supposed to block. He pulled down in front of Kenny Brack and blocked him. He'll be getting a black flag, and he doesn't want to do that. So
that's the one thing that Brian Barnhart has harped on almost every race in the drivers' meeting. We will not allow blocking.
Yeah, and that was clearly what Canan was doing there because he pulled right down. Now, I think he was told that time not to do that anymore because he didn't.
He gave him room, but
Yep.
that time Brack didn't have the momentum to go on by.
No, he didn't have the momentum, but he certainly did give him room. Thomas Scheckter now catching up with him back there in 4th place. So while those guys are battling each other, Thomas Scheckter making a bit of a move. Looks like Takagi coming in.
Takagi coming back in car number 12, the Mo Nunn entry.
Ever since that fuel hose incident, they've had all kinds of problems.
Well, he's getting a drive-through black flag, Larry. We're being told from race control for that pit incident earlier when he pulled out and still had the hose attached.
Okay, well that's going
to his penalty is drive-through. That'll put him down a lap as we take a look at the race summary as Scott Dixon continues to lead. We've had 3 different leaders and 3 lead changes. Tony Canan has led, Kenny Brack has led, and now Scott Dixon. Got a total of 4 yellows so far.
Well, right now, Scott Dixon appears to be very much in control. He's pulled out to almost a whole 1 second lead over Tony Canan. And,
did you find out that pub down there in
I was just thinking,
big screen television?
They're jumping up and down in the silo bar.
We want to hear from you. Do you have a big screen television in the pub?
Yeah, they're having
wow, what is this? There is a spray off some car.
That's Jacques Lazier, and so whoever he's, there's something.
Well, he's behind Meccano.
Whoa!
Well, that was. It just went by Buddy Lazier.
Yeah, it looked like Lazier's having some problems because he's moved back quite a ways. As he started off in this restart up in 2nd place. Now then he's way back.
That didn't look like oil, though. It looked more like water.
No, yeah, it looked like water. He's back to 14th position, so that's not a good thing for him.
And still 137 laps to go.
You can see they have gotten strung out just a little bit. back here. But there is Buddy Lazier, and he's, man, he lost a lot of ground that time to his brother. So he's got some engine problems back there.
Well, race control said they were detecting some smoke, and he has pulled off the racing line, and you saw just a puff of smoke right there, and he's headed back to the pitter. That's the Himmelgarn racing team that really got a very late start. They do not have the sponsors that they've had in the past, and weren't even sure they're going to race this season.
Yeah, they didn't run the first race, and they've had some trouble getting going. But you know, Buddy Lazier has been pretty strong. You can see Sam Hornish also one of those guys that's shifting gears. He's changing gears going into turn number 3. So
Sam back in the 9th position, 2-time defending Indy Racing League champion.
Yeah,
Out of Defiance, Ohio, back in the Midwest in America.
Yeah, he's not. You know, he still thinks the Chevrolet has a way to go. I mean, he's willing to work with these guys, but he wants them to step up their program a little bit. Indianapolis is coming. He wants to win there. He wants to do well there, and
pulls up on Al Unser Jr. Al had a great ride at Phoenix the last outing, and Al right now is in the 9th position. Yeah, well, you simply knew when Honda and Toyota came on board that Chevrolet would have to step up the program.
Well, everybody has to. You know, those guys spend a lot of money. They've always been willing to spend the bucks to go fast, and Chevrolet, not that Chevrolet isn't, but I think Chevrolet was just caught a little bit. They thought they were a lot stronger than they were. Their first test sessions, they thought they were going pretty good, but when they got to the first race, they found out very quickly that they were down on horsepower.
Well, he's able to gain in the corner coming off the corner. Then it stabilizes down the straightaway. Now, that's Al Jr. out in front. Now he's driving with Toyota power, and you're following him with the Chevy power plant.
I think my front suspension was damaged when I got behind someone, and I think one of the Penske car's parts came on and hit my front suspension. On the restart, I pushed the car and I got into the turbulence, and something was not right, and the car just got lost, and it got hit by Elio after that. So
but you're okay.
I'm totally fine.
Thanks, Roger.
Thank you.
Roger Yasukawa explaining what he thought happened.
We thought that piece hit the tire and didn't damage the suspension, but he could be right. It could have hit the tire hard enough.
That happened early on in that race that I would think he would know by now if there was a problem.
Well, you know, I don't know. It's hard to tell because
there was a lot of laps earlier.
Those suspension pieces are very, very fragile. And look at this. Hornish now is going to try to sneak under Al Jr.
That Barron crash happened on lap 18. Yasukawa crashed on 46. So a lot of laps in between those two altercations.
Well,
oh,
that's his story.
He's smoked, and he's sticking to it. that was Hornish smoking by Unser.
Yeah,
Hornish moves up to 8th position. Now he's going to set sail for Unser's teammate Sharp, who is in the 7th position.
Well, as you said, he's working very well through the corners, and once he got that wheel under there, he didn't give back.
So 70 out of 200 laps completed here in the Indy Japan 300, and Scott Dixon continues to lead. As we ride with Michael back there in 6th position, and there goes Giafoni to the inside of Hornish. So Giafoni picks up a position, and that will drop Hornish to 5th. Still a pretty good ride for Sam with really an underpowered race car.
Yeah, those guys been battling pretty hard. He was following Giafoni. He got around Giafoni, and then Giafoni just kind of returned the favor by blowing by him going down the back straightaway. So those guys battling each other pretty hard right now.
There are 2 bonus points for leading the most laps, and right now that would be well, Tony Kanaan. Looks like right now that honor would go to him. There used to be bonus points for qualifying. They did away with those a couple of seasons ago, and the only bonus points now are for leading the most laps in a race.
Well, they did that to try to do away with the qualifying engines, special engines for the qualifying.
It's been an eventful afternoon for this young man on the Mo Nunn team.
Yeah, Takagi's had ever since that fuel incident, he's had all kinds of problems. Now he's come back in. A much better pit stop that time. No fuel hose left in it.
Well, there's Breck making a pass.
Now, Kenny Breck, I'm not sure what happened to him, but he certainly made an unscheduled pit stop very, very early.
I got a lap off the pace.
And he's much quicker now than he has been, but that was unfortunate to get down that lap.
There's Dan Weldon right behind Al Unser Jr. This is a battle for position. This is the battle for 8th. And right now, although Michael has enough on his plate just driving the race car, you'd have to be pleased with what Dan Weldon is doing in the substitute role for Franchitti. And look at this move on the inside. These guys have been battling back and forth and swapping that position. This is the battle for 4th as Giafoni up on the high side and Sam Hornish makes the pass.
Yeah, they passed each other a couple of times here in the last few laps. Seems like as soon as Hornish goes around, then all of a sudden Giafoni, oh, look at that. He really gets into
pulled
3.
away.
Getting into 3, he is very, very quick.
There's the move over flag as he makes a move to the inside of Takagi. Gary Lee and Larry Rice live coverage from Motegi in Japan, about a 2-hour drive northwest of Tokyo. And right now you're riding along with Sam Hornish Jr., who's back in the 4th position, just took that position away from
Giafoni, and it doesn't look like Giafoni's going to be able to come back. Last time he got around him, Giafoni came right back and passed him back, but it doesn't look like he's going to be able to do that this time.
Well, the Pennzoil Panther team preparing for a pit stop for Hornish in about 4 or 5 laps.
Well, that's the other thing about the Chevrolets. They have not been getting as good a gas mileage as the other cars have been getting either, so that's another disadvantage that they have to put up with right now.
Shiggy Nakano was just placed a lap down in car 54, blue and yellow entry. We've seen most of the leaders' pit stops have come under yellow this afternoon. But right now, Tony Canan has gone, what,
59 laps
since his last pit stop.
Yeah, look at Schechter. He's trying to get around the lap car as well. He was right behind Canan as Canan got held up a little bit there. Now then Schechter got held up for about a lap as he was trying to get around him.
Schechter too, 59 laps. So all of your leaders have gone 59 laps since their last pit stop.
Yeah, and Scott Dixon is hoping that they all get in there pretty quick because he's out of sequence with them, and he wants all those guys to have to make their pit stops
under green as well.
Green as well. That's correct. That's right. If they don't, it could put him really behind the 8 ball.
Well, you're watching that battle right now for the. That is Little Al. Little Al is back in 9th position. You've got Weldon right there with him. Oh, wait, that's Canan.
That's Canan.
He's Canan lapping
a lap down. Yeah, so that's Little Al's a lap down now. So Canan's really on the hammer. He's putting he's lapped everybody up to 8th place now, but he is going to have to make a pit stop pretty shortly.
Schechter's only 2nd back, but you take a look at Sharp. Sharp is 14 seconds back in 3rd position.
Yeah, and we said earlier,
Schechter going around Unser.
The 4 fastest guys were Brack, Canan, Schechter, and Dixon, and of course the other 2 have made pit stops, so it leaves just those 2 guys who are running close, and both of them going to pit at the same time.
All right, your 2 leaders under green. This is exactly what Scott Dixon wants and needs to get back to the front.
Be interesting to see.
There's
Sam
Hornish. He's
already
in on schedule.
Yeah, that was 5th place. He was running in 5th place before this pit stop. It's usually a very quick, efficient pit crew that he's got. And that Chevrolet did not get, I mean, he pitted almost the same, about 1 lap sooner than everybody else. So evidently they've got the fuel problems a little bit better with the Chevrolet anyway.
But you don't know with these yellows that we've had.
No, we don't really know for sure, but he did stay out almost as long as everybody else.
Well, we'll see who does not come in. We'll see who stays out and will assume the lead as all the leaders.
Well, look at this.
Contact and competition.
Those 2 guys went in just almost the same way, but it looked like Schechter had a little bit of a run on him there coming out, but he had to get off the throttle as Canan pulled out and went ahead and followed him down the back straight.
Well, now you're riding with Scott Sharp. He is now the leader, and he will be pitting, so he will get credited for leading about 1 lap. And then will Giafoni come in or will Giafoni stay out? And we'll see who will assume the lead when Scott Sharp falls off the pace and into the pit area. And that gives the lead to our 5th leader of the day, Giafoni.
Yeah, Scott Sharp, you probably see them go up there and make a wing change on that front wing. Oh, look at this. Foyt.
A.J. Foyt, the 4th, brings out the 5th yellow, and that's not what Scott Dixon really wanted.
Well,
although most of the leaders did make their pit stop.
Most of the leaders have made their pit stops, so it'll be interesting to see who, if anybody's out there. And you can see he's moving around trying to get out of the car, so it appears like he's okay, but
I hope we have a replay of this to see exactly how he got in that particular position.
Yeah, he's body slammed it with the left or the right side again, it appears, and then slid across and hit the nose directly into the inside wall down the front straightaway. So it'd be interesting to see, but I imagine he just came off and got a little high coming off of turn 4 and hit the wall with the right side.
Well, we've just completed half the race, just over half the race, 106 laps now, and we're under yellow. And there's a look at Giafoni. Felipe Giafoni, a former Rookie of the Year a couple of years back, won a race last year for Mo Nunn, and right now he has the lead under the yellow with Al Jr. in 2nd. Scott Sharp, Al's teammate, is 3rd. Well, Sharp came in. We'll take that back. Canan is now 3rd, then Dixon. So Dixon was not hurt by the placement of this yellow. So now it's Giafoni, who will have to come in momentarily. That will give the lead to Unser, but Unser has also gone 66 laps. And when those two come in, then Canan will be back on top with Dixon 2nd, Schechter 3rd.
Yeah, so it's going to be, these guys are going to have to pit, but they were a little bit lucky. You see Mark Bridges standing there talking to, he's the official in the white shirt down between the two walls, standing there asking A.J. Foyt exactly what happened. You can see it's smoking. They're bringing up the fire extinguisher, so there might be a little bit of a fire underneath the hood of that race car.
Well, he will celebrate his 19th birthday on the day of the Indy 500, May 25th. He is the youngest driver entered for the race. And the oldest driver, of course, will be former 2-time winner Arie Luyendyk.
Yeah, and you can see then they're still trying to get underneath there to make sure if that's just steam or if it's actually on fire under there, but they haven't got that cowling off yet. It looks like it's on fire. You see some bubbling on the paint back there. There's Giafoni, and he will be heading for the pits as soon as the pits are open, as soon as they're open. If he starts running out of fuel, he is allowed to pull in if all he does is put fuel in and go back on the racetrack. So there he is heading for the pit area.
Hello again, welcome back. We'll be returning to the action in this Indy Japan 300 from Twin Ring Motegi in just a moment. But first of all, we're going to hear from Helio Castroneves, who was involved, you'll remember, in an incident a short while ago, and this is what he had to say about it.
Your ankle and now your elbow. I don't want to get too close here. What happened physically?
Well, I guess I'm not going to be playing tennis in Miami now. So unfortunately, we just Roger lost the rear, and I was trying to avoid and go outside, and I just got in an accident. So race accident.
Any concerns about being physically 100% when Indy opens up for practice?
Oh no, it's just obviously put ice to make sure that the swallow comes down.
So there we are. That's just briefly what happened there. Jack Arute, the man with the questions. Paul, what did you make of that? That could have been a lot worse, that incident, couldn't it?
Yeah, it was one of those things where somebody innocently got caught up in somebody else's problem. Roger, in a little interview I don't think we've seen, did happen to say that the wing that came off Barron's car that we saw earlier on in the race did actually clip his front suspension, and he thought that contributed to his problems. So that may have been another sideline to that story.
Yeah, and Mark, when you see that sort of thing happening, it's a reminder of how quickly things can happen in racing.
Yeah, I think it was Andretti who was able to get out of the way of it. And
Andretti did brilliantly to avoid any trouble at all.
I think there was a bit of luck involved in there as well.
Well, maybe, but I mean, fantastic reflexes.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. Here you go. I mean, to be able to move out of the way and then correct it like that as well. I think with all the debris there, he was quite lucky with that. But Castroneves, what can you say? He just got a bit unlucky with that and had nowhere to go. Hopefully he'll be all right for Indy.
Yeah, and Rob, as I said a moment ago, that could have been quite a lot worse. In fact, it was reasonably tidy the way it all happened.
Yeah, it was. Well, you know, 200 miles an hour, you're going 300 feet per second.
Yeah.
So, you know, you don't have a lot of, you cover a lot of distance very quickly.
Yeah.
It could have been a lot worse.
Well, that's the point Paul was making earlier when we were chatting. This is a big circuit, and if you hit the wall at the wrong place, you can go on a long way.
Yeah, it's a good point. The wall, yeah, because the track's so wide, you don't slow down a lot before you hit the wall.
Yeah.
If you're really close to the wall, you don't get as much an impact sometimes. So, yeah, it was very fortunate it didn't come out worse.
And racing-wise, we've still got a long way to go, a lot yet to happen. How do you feel the race is now shaping up?
Well, again, it's so tough to call, you know. I think Honda really want to win this event. As we were talking before, when they had the kart race here, they've never won their home race when it was a kart race. So they'd really like to beat the Toyota boys at home.
Yeah, and Canan was your sort of pre-race tip?
Yeah, he's won already this year, so it wasn't exactly a dark horse. But, you know, it's, yeah, he's still my guy.
And Paul, just briefly, how do you see this shaping up? I can't see that there's much pattern emerging here. It's a bit strange. We can't get into it.
It's a fairly fragmented event, and that's just a product of all the crashes. There's a lot of different strategies being worked on now. Normally we can plot these races and say, okay, now's a good time to fuel, now's not. We've had so many yellows. I don't think there's 3 people on the same strategy at this moment.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is all the kart drivers and teams, or ex-kart drivers and teams, are running at the front of this game. Their data and their knowledge from those years has paid off.
That's all paying off, isn't it? This is really when it comes to the fore.
Absolutely. The data is everything. Doesn't matter who drove or what, data is everything.
And just a word about the event itself. It looks like there's a pretty decent crowd there. This must be one of the big events they have there.
Yeah, it's the hardest way of describing it is like having Silverstone but putting it in the Outer Hebrides. Everybody has to come there by public transport. You're only allowed to bring your own car if you have a special pass. So to get 50,000 people there is only 50% of the stadium, but boy, that is a massive crowd.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Right, let's now go back to the action. We can do that once again. Here's Larry Rice and Gary Lee again.
Okay, Canan picks up the throttle. Scott Sharp right with him.
Wow, we got some guys back there making some moves.
Scrambling for positions. That's Schechter back there in third. He's being challenged by Giafoni. Giafoni on the high line coming through the corner.
He made a great move back there early in that past one. Oh, look at that. Breck moved to the inside to try to get around Sharp. And Giafoni had headed down that way, too.
That's Schechter.
I'm sorry,
in the
Schechter.
third position. That's Sharp in second. Schechter looks to the inside, has the momentum to make the pass going to turn 1. Makes the clean pass for second. Sharp drops to third. Giafoni is fourth. Dixon now is fifth. And how many races? All 3 this season. We've talked about Canan being the dominant driver.
Yeah, he has been. He's been very good, very strong in every race he's been in so far. Schechter is really been as strong here today as we've seen him all year, and he's running as good. Now Dixon moves past Giafoni for fourth. Dixon obviously won the first race, but he looks extremely good. He only
racy right now.
Yeah, he's awful racy here, and in that first race, he really wasn't racing until the last half of the race.
Look at these Target Chip Ganassi cars in 2 of the top 4 positions. They're running second and fourth right now.
Well, Chip Ganassi doesn't put, I mean, he's always been up front. Every time he's run an IRL race, he's always had his cars up near the front. He hasn't run a lot of them until this year. Well,
he had his car on the pole last year at the Indy Motor Speedway.
Exactly, that's right. And he's always run good at Indianapolis, and that's.
And Jucaro won this race last year under the kart sanction with Ganassi. So still 84 laps to go, and 1 more pit stop. Looks like Giafoni's kind of lost contact with the front 4.
Yeah, Scott Sharp's running much better. After that pit stop, whatever they did, it seems like he's running much better than he was a little bit earlier. He had fallen back, and it looks like Dixon, though, is going to get a run on him. Oh, no, he's not going to be able to do it that time, but he's...
Schechter also looked to the inside of Canan, so both the Target cars were trying to put a run on the guy right in front of him.
And both of them thought better of it and had to get out of the throttle. And like we said before, once you get out of the throttle just for a split second, you lose your momentum and you lose several car lengths on the racetrack.
We have a competition in America called the Superstars, and they bring in stars from all kinds of sporting sporting events. And in fact, Schechter finished second overall. He was up against basketball players and football players and cyclists and swimmers, and he was second overall.
And he was pretty excited about that. He was, oh, look at this. He goes to the inside of Scott Sharp. Sharp didn't give him much room. He had to get hard on the brakes and lost several car lengths right there.
You want to hit the brakes too hard here, you'll really upset the chassis.
No, but he had to get out of the throttle. I'm not sure he had to actually hit the brakes, but he certainly had to get out of the throttle because Sharp.
You can see what happens when you lose your momentum, lose the RPMs.
Yeah, luckily for him, Giafone wasn't close enough to take advantage of it, but he definitely lost some ground once that happened.
Well, Tony Canan has led the most laps today. In fact, he's led on three different occasions.
Look at Schechter. He is he's running every bit as fast. As a matter of fact, the last time around, he had an identical lap to Tony Canan. So those guys both those guys run very well. I think those two, along with Dixon, are the fastest three cars on the racetrack at this point.
And right now, you know, maturity dictates you don't take any chances. If you can run with them, if you can make the pass, but you don't chance it.
Right. And Scott Sharp
still have almost 80 laps to go.
And Scott Sharp also is running very well. All four of those guys are running pretty quick right now. Scott Sharp much quicker now. I don't know what they did on that pit stop, but he's much quicker now than he was before that last pit stop.
Well, Andretti has dropped back to 9th. He had been up in 7th position. He's back in 9th right now. 10th is Hornish, and Hornish has been battling up in the top 5.
Yeah, Kenny Brack has not moved up. I thought he was he was really quick before he made that last pit stop. I thought he might work his way back through there and move up, but he hasn't really moved up as quickly as I thought he would.
Let's look at Hornish on the right of your screen in the yellow number 4. And, I think that's a lap car that he's about to go around. That's Takagi, is it not?
I believe it is. And he's
lost a lap in that the pit penalty.
Look at this.
This is for the lead.
Schechter finally got that run going down the back straightaway. He tried to do that 2 or 3 different times. Had never been able to pull it off. Kind of went to school there for a few laps and finally got that big run coming off of turn number 2 and just blew by him going into turn 3. And wow, look, once he got around him, he pulled off to
6 different leader this afternoon. We've had Canan, Kenny Brack has won, or has led, Scott Dixon, Scott Sharp, Felipe Giafone, and now Thomas Schechter, the 6th different leader.
Well, we'll see now if Canan can stand up in the seat and come back and challenge him, because I'm sure, I mean, Canan, all these guys want to lead every lap. I mean, they want to lead every lap and win every race, but right now, it just appears that Schechter's car is working a little bit better than Canan's.
Keep in mind, though, Larry, there is still one more pit stop to make.
Well, and especially if it's under green, it's going to be very critical. Your pit crew is going to have to be sharp. You're going to have to be good getting in and out of the pits. You forget that getting into and out of the pits are a couple of the most important things under a pit stop, and that's where a lot of the rookies have trouble, knowing exactly how fast to go, where you need to gain speed, where you can't gain speed.
Back from Scott Sharp, and look at this move on the inside. Scott Dixon took a look, didn't have the room, didn't have the momentum.
Now he's tried that a couple of other times. The whole key is to get a good run off the corner and be able to beat him. And in most cases here today, we've seen him get that run off of turn 2 and going into turn 3 make the pass.
Well, the Target Ganassi cars are running 1st and 4th right now. Canan is 2nd, Sharp is 3rd, then Dixon, Giafone, Kenny Brack, Allenser Jr., Alex Barron back in 8th position, Andretti, Hornish, and Weldon. Those are the 11 cars on the lead lap.
Yeah, and he made it work that time. He made it. He did exactly what he tried to do for a couple laps before. He got that run, and he's timed it just right. A lot of it is just timing. If you catch him, if you get in the throttle too soon and catch him just wrong, then you can't get around him. So it's a lot of it is just timing. That time he timed it perfectly and went right on by Scott Sharp.
Well, we saw the Penske drivers finish 1-2 in the past. Could we see the Ganassi drivers finish 1-2 here this afternoon?
Well, obviously they've got 2 of the 3 fastest cars on the racetrack right now. 2 of the 4 fastest, I should say, because Scott Sharp still is able to keep up with those guys, but those 4 guys have pulled away a little bit from Giafone.
As we talk about one more pit stop, even though everything can go just right on the pit stop, if those tires are not as good or a good match set as what they have right now, it'll change the handling of the race car.
Well, when we talk about good tires and bad tires, we don't really mean that they're bad tires. We just mean that the match
could
set.
be off
That's
just
right.
a tick.
And it only takes a fraction of an inch. I mean, they measure these things in 1/16ths of an inch. You know, they're very, very critical. It's not like a lot of cars where you might change stagger by a ½ inch or an inch. You measure the stagger in these cars by 1/16.
Not like a sprint car on a short bull ring where you got about 15 inches of stagger for qualifying.
Exactly. These are radial tires, though, so the stagger is, you know, it stays more consistent, but still there are differences in the tires.
Well, 69 laps to go, as you see, as they run through in the upper left-hand screen. The drivers are out of the race. We've had make that 5 different yellows for crashes this afternoon. And we're going to hear from AJ the fourth momentarily. That Jack Arute has caught up with the 18-year-old Texan.
Look at Schechter. He just goes by Robbie Buell on the outside. We'll see, though, if he lost any momentum. Doesn't appear to.
Well, he caught him in a pretty good spot, though.
Yeah, he did. He caught him in a good spot, and Buell gave him plenty of room.
Right now, he enjoys about.
Yeah, just somehow with the wheel, it cut the end of the finger and banged my knee inside, but nothing real big. Just really disappointed. We had a great car all weekend, and you know, we're running consistent runs, and we're really happy how things were going here. Too bad it turned out this way.
Well, I'll also let you guys, Paul, know that I talked to AJ, Grandpa, on the way out just before you, and he wasn't at all upset by the performance. He said the kid did good today. Paul?
I wonder if he'd be saying that about a driver if the driver were not his grandson. I mean, you know AJ pretty well.
Yeah, he's known to have a pretty good temper.
Although I think if he got a little agitated with the kid, he'd probably uncork that temper.
Oh, I think so. But it, you know, it's a little different though when it's your like you said, I'm going to spend my own money. I'm going to spend it on my relation. I'm not going to spend it on somebody else. So
don't let my kids hear you say that. They'll be hitting me up for a race car. Well, Schechter continues to lead with now an almost 2-second advantage over Tony Canan, and Scott Dixon rides in third, then Scott Sharp and Felipe Giafone with now 11 drivers in the lead lap after 134 circuits. We've gone almost 3/4 of the way through this event. You're right along with Sam Hornish, who is not having the kind of season that he had hoped for after winning the IRL title the last 2 seasons.
You can see there, Schechter still slicing.
Lost about a second of his lead, though, as he goes through traffic.
Yeah, he caught up with a couple of lap cars there. He dealt with a lot of lap traffic, and that could be part of the reason.
But then once he clears them, Canan has to.
That's right. Then Canan's got to get around him too. So while he was going around those 2 guys, he had trouble.
Well, we have seen this driver in and out of the pits today, and a problem when he left the pits earlier with the fuel hose still attached to the race car and yanked it loose. Had to have a drive-through penalty. There are several penalties that can be assessed. You know, a stop and go, a timed stop, a drive-through, which is what he had earlier.
Yeah, and that was the least severe of any of them, but he still had to do it, and it still cost him a lot of time. And even though he was started in 3rd position, he's lost a couple of laps. And you know, those are mistakes that you're going to make, and it's so important for these young guys, these newer guys, to understand what's going on out there. And Takagi just made a mistake, and it's cost him a chance to win this race.
We're probably within about 10 laps of a pit stop for our leaders. They have gone now 49 laps. There is Schechter, the 22-year-old from Cape Town, and normally his mom Pam has a big party. But it would be breakfast in Cape Town to be watching this race.
Yeah, a little different time zones around the world, and this one obviously running at a different time than normally we would see it anywhere. So,
well, this time zone here would be 13 hours ahead of New York and 14 hours ahead of Indianapolis. But we are coming to you live as it happens. It's 48 laps to go. And now your leader has gone 50 laps since his last pit stop.
And Schechter is outrun. On that last lap, he outran everybody by almost a ½ a second. He is really, really fast out there. Canan that time around is much quicker. And Canan must have got caught in some of that lap traffic we were talking about earlier. But right now, Scheckter is the class of the field.
Well, he had a almost a 4-second lead to drop down to under 2 seconds in traffic. And now it's back to over 3 seconds. So he has been consistent through traffic. You take a look back. Let's try to find Canan.
There's Canan running in second. He's about 3.5 seconds behind. Scott Dixon is back about 5 seconds. But those are the only three that really are in contention right now.
Scott Sharp is off the pace by some 14.5 seconds, and then Giafone and Unser are back about 19 seconds off the pace and running in 5th and 6th position. So right now, really, you have Scheckter and Canan and Dixon as the class of this field.
Yeah, and you can see Dixon. He's about a half straightaway behind Canan, so he's not all that far behind Canan. But those three definitely are the fastest.
I wonder where Canan's parents are watching this race this afternoon. We know where Scott Dixon's parents are. We know where Schecter's mom is. His dad Jody's in London watching.
Yeah, we'll have to find out, I guess, from somewhere.
Get some email.
We'll ask him.
So Schecter's lead now is almost 3.5 seconds with 44 laps to go. As you see, Castronevitz, Fisher, Mayer out of the race with crashes. We've had a total of 5 different yellows today and 6 different leaders. Canan has led the most laps. Kenny Brack took his turn up in front. Scott Dixon led for some 23 laps.
Well, Scott Dixon grew up around racing. His dad used to own a speedway, a little dirt track over in Australia, Townsville Speedway. So he grew up around different kind of racing than he's racing right now, but he's always been involved in it. His whole family's been involved in it, and obviously his desire to stay in this sport has paid off. Or now then he's going to get around that lap car.
We're anticipating a pit stop for Sam Hornish, who is back there in the 9th position, being shown a lap off the pace. He makes his pit stop. Nothing to lose here. It's been some 57 laps since his stop, and he now is a lap off the pace. So now only 8 drivers on the lead lap, and at the back of that lead lap is Michael Andretti. You saw him make an adjustment to the front wing.
Yeah, they put one turn in the front wing, so he made a small adjustment, but that race car actually has been handling pretty good. I don't think it's the handling that's the problem. He's been pretty happy with that part of the race
See
car.
how slow this pit speed limit is?
60 miles an hour, and it seems like when you're used to going
like you're crawling.
Yeah, 180 mile an hour, that seems like you're just absolutely crawling. Ooh, look at this, Al Jr.
Contact there between Barron and Alex Barron and Al Unser Jr.
Those two guys racing each other pretty hard.
I understand that Team Ganassi is getting ready, the Target Ganassi team getting ready for Scheckter. And Scheckter comes in the pits. Canan is in. And so now we see what should be the last pit stop of the race coming under green.
You want to make sure you get in there. You want to make sure you hit your marks. You want to make sure you wait on them to get that fuel hose out of there. Good communication.
Good pit stop.
Good communication on everybody's part right there. You got in and out in good shape.
That was Andretti. Canan remains on the racetrack now as the leader.
Well, you can see Andretti got a little wiggly right there as he got on the throttle a little bit hard as he passed that line in the pit area where you can get on the throttle.
Now here comes Canan. There is Dixon. That should give the lead to Scott Sharp till he comes in. Sharp has led once before when they were cycling through their pit stops earlier in the race.
Those two guys had almost identical pit stops as they stopped at almost the same time and took off again almost at the same time, and are going to come on the racetrack and have almost the same distance.
There's Alex Barron coming to the attention of the captain. There's Roger Penske up on the wall. So Sharp has the lead. He has yet to pit. Giafone rides in second. Al Jr. is third. But those drivers have yet to make their last pit stop. And we would anticipate those stops momentarily.
And you can tell all these teams up here so far have had very good pit stops, all about the same sort of speed. You can change the tires much quicker than you can put the fuel in. You can see every one of them had the car back on the ground and had to wait for the fuel. That's why it's so important for them to have somebody to tell them when they can take off. They can't see when that fuel hose is released. Now then, Scott Sharp hits.
Scott Sharp Peels off and heads for the pit. Whoa, he was fast and low on that pit lane. He was almost down in the grass.
Yeah, he gets
carried a lot of speed through there.
He
has to get her woed down.
If he'd have touched the grass of that left front, he'd have known it in a real hurry, let me tell you.
He's gone for a ride.
Well, he's run very, very well after that last pit stop. Hadn't been running nearly that well until they made some adjustments on that last pit stop. Let's see if they can make a small adjustment here and make any changes. Yep, they're going to make another wing adjustment on the front.
The left front.
Yeah, the left front.
A little more downforce in it.
So
Giafone leads, but he is due for his last stop. He's gone 57 laps since his last pit stop. There is Scheckter. Now Scheckter, when they all cycle through, should be your leader.
Yeah, he should be back in the lead because Canan is behind him on the racetrack. The other guys still have to make their pit stops. But look at that. Canan is not very far behind him. He is really close.
There's Giafone. Now we're still waiting for Giafone to make that pit stop.
Well, he's praying for a yellow flag right now, believe me. If he gets one of those, he's in good shape.
Well, if Scheckter could hold off and win this thing, that would give the Ganassi team 2 wins in 3 races. They won the first outing in Homestead, Florida with Scott Dixon.
Here comes Giafone, it looks like. Couldn't wait any longer. 59 laps. That's quite a few laps.
So Scheckter will resume the lead at lap 167. Scheckter led for some 36 laps earlier. Lost the lead on those ensuing pit stops. Now Scheckter will resume the top spot. Maybe.
Look at this. Maybe. Look at this. Canan going for the lead.
Be blocked maybe behind Al Jr. Did he get him?
It looks like he's going to have him. Let's see what happens. Canan can't get around Al Jr. So Scheckter goes to the outside and looks like, oh, he got way up in the marbles. He couldn't make it work. Boy, that's a mistake. He tried to go back for the lead, tried to go back around the outside of Canan, just didn't have quite enough room. The thing slid, got in the marbles, slid up into the wall, and as we've seen happen,
yes, Alex Barron also in the fence. Now, how did that happen?
Well, probably some reaction from people behind him back there. People trying to miss the accident, getting out of the throttle. It's very easy when you're the 4th or 5th guy in the line. Once somebody in front of you gets out of the throttle and sees the accident and you don't, it's very easy to end up having to get out to the outside. And once you get to the outside, you might get in those marbles. And believe me, a racetrack like this, if you get in the marbles, it's going to suck you right into the wall. There's a
You see the reaction from the Chip Ganassi Target team there. Our 6th yellow of the afternoon, coming on lap 168. And there's Alex Barron. So the Penske team has retired both their cars in crashes.
You don't see that very often. You don't see the Roger Penske sitting in the pits with no cars on the racetrack at the end of the race very often. And there's a very dejected young man right there.
All right, let's take a look
again.
You
can just see he's up in the gray stuff. He just got too high. And once he got up in the gray stuff, he was toast. You can't save it. You know, the race car just absolutely will not turn. Oh, it looked like, yeah, that's Scheckter.
That's Scheckter, but Barron was in the wall before Scheckter.
Yeah, he had already hit the wall up there.
I don't know if we could see that replay again, but all right, now here it is. This is on Scheckter. He gets in the marbles, what we call the marbles, the gray.
He saved it. He saved it from spinning, but he just couldn't get it turned in order to miss the wall.
But Barron had already hit the wall and crashed up in front of Scheckter.
Yeah, he had. I thought it happened as a result of Schecter's crash, but he was in front of that group, and he was already coming down in front straightaway.
We had that long shot from the camera outside turn 1, and we saw 2 cars, and the first car was Alex Barron in the number 6 Marlboro Penske entry.
Yeah, that's very unusual for 2 separate accidents happen in the same place almost at the same time on the same lap. But definitely they were 2 separate, completely separate incidents.
That again is Scheckter.
Yeah, Scheckter just once he got up in those marbles, he saved it from spinning. You saw that thing give that big wiggle, but once he got it saved right here, he gets up there, right here it gives the wiggle. Oh, he saves it right there, but he just couldn't get it turned. He tried. He had the thing trying to turn down, but the marbles just kept the whole car in that four-wheel drift, and it just did a body slam into the right side.
See, now out
in
front of this, as we're watching him out in front of this, down the racetrack toward the first turn, there's Chip Ganassi.
Yeah.
But on down the front straightaway was when the number 6 car of Alex Barron made contact.
Yep. It doesn't look like the crew's
I guess
it
wasn't Chip Ganassi either. It looked like Chip.
Yeah, he climbed down. He was on the other side, climbed down on the other side, and got off the podium. But yeah, they're very, very disappointed. They thought they had a chance to run at least maybe 1-2 here, but just not going to happen today. Well, Scott Dixon, let's see what you got. I'm sure they're down there in Manukau. They're cheering you on right now.
Well, 24 laps to go. The green flag flies, and it's time to show them if you've got them.
That's right.
You've got an ace up your sleeve. You better go for it right now. 24 laps to go. Canan has the advantage over Scott Dixon. So the two drivers that found victory lane in the first 2 races this season began this shootout today in the front row with Scott Dixon on the pole, Tony Canan outside pole, and
looked like Dixon
got a crop right now.
Yeah, looked like Dixon got a great run through turns 3 and 4 that time around. It looked like Canan got a huge start, got a big lead on him. It looked like, well, he might just run away from this. But look at Dixon. He really got a great run that time. He's going to go by going into turn 3. Oh, contact.
On their 2 leaders, the 2 leaders are out of this race, and the 7th yellow of the afternoon.
He had a great run on him. It looked like he had the pass made, and then contact going into that corner.
What'd you say about Scott Sharp not being in this thing?
Well, right now
he's Phony's going to be in it. Unser's going to be in it. This totally changes the complexion of this race outcome.
Well, you can see that Tony Canan has just raised his visor. That's a good sign. He hit that wall very hard with the right on the right-hand side. Scott Dixon took a heck of a wallop. He spun that thing around and slammed it with the left side. He really hit that thing.
Watch it again, Larry.
See, he makes the run. He's down at the inside. It looks like Canan's going to let him go, and then couldn't. Oh, man, Scott Dixon just hit that thing a ton with the left rear side.
Now, is this a case that Canan did not give him enough room?
Well, I'm not sure. You just can't.
Push up.
You can't
that
tell.
That angle you can't tell.
You can't tell who did what there, but definitely, you know, Canan didn't expect him to be that high on the racetrack.
Let's watch again.
You can't really tell where the bottom of the racetrack is from the angle we're watching it, but.
Well, it looks to me like Canan came down from that angle.
Yeah, Canan came down, but you can't tell how far into the corner they were. Man, oh man.
A huge impact.
It was very similar.
Look again.
It's.
You can't tell. With those 4 replays, you really can't tell. It's 2 leaders going for the same piece of real estate.
That's exactly right. It looked like.
Look at his impact. Look at his impact in slow motion. Oh, and the car got airborne just before he hit the wall.
Yeah, he hit that thing a ton. I mean, those guys both hit the thing a ton.
Well, there's
Dixon is
climbing out with
he is climbing out, so that's great news.
And Tony Canan is still in the race car, but look at the damage to that race car. Apparently, we're being told from race control they're asking for a backboard for Tony Canan.
Well, you know, he is conscious. We saw him raise his visor, but he made a very heavy contact with the right side. This was very reminiscent of what we saw with Michael Andretti and Gilles de Ferran. You know, almost identical to what happened at Phoenix just the last time out. That time, from a different angle, it appeared that Michael just didn't give Gilles de Ferran quite enough room. But
you know, and it's interesting that we've talked about how wide this racetrack is. you would think that these kind of crashes might happen at a racetrack like Phoenix, where it's very narrow.
Well, Dixon's getting out of the car, but he's not feeling too good. He's sitting down, so he might have some sort of a leg injury. He's hurting a little bit because he could not stand up and walk away by himself. And you can see the medics taking care of him there, and they're bringing over a backboard for him too. So with Indianapolis only a few weeks away, this is not a good sign for either one of these guys.
Well.
Hello there, welcome back. Our continuing coverage of the Indy Japan 300. As you'll have seen just a moment ago, big accident in the closing stages of this race between Scott Dixon and Tony Canan. We can look at that again in a moment, but first of all, let's just get the thoughts of the boys here. Rob, when we see this happening, this really was a big impact, wasn't it, for both drivers?
Yeah, a heck of an impact. Boy, oh boy, you see, every time we see it, we can't. It's you know, we know they've had some injuries, but thankfully nothing too major, I guess. You know, certainly no head injuries.
We understand that Scott Dixon's been released by the Infield Medical Centre, not too bad, but Tony Canan is in a local hospital undergoing x-rays on his right leg and his left arm. But again, it doesn't appear to be too serious, and we can only be thankful that they've escaped.
Again, as we see, we were trying to figure out whose fault it was. I mean, that perhaps doesn't become all that important now, but it looked like, we were saying, talking to Mark and Paul, that maybe that Dixon just kind of went in a little bit hot and didn't give Canan enough room to turn down, but he had no choice. He had to turn down to get, so otherwise he would have gone off anyway. But it looks like he just goes in here, and then you see Canan has to start to turn. He's going into a very, very quick corner, and then Dixon's gone a little bit hot, and then boy, oh boy, yeah. All hell breaks loose.
Mark, we don't like to point fingers because obviously it's a nasty incident. Things could have been really pretty bad. But where would you say the fault lies there?
Well, I'd say that Scott Dixon had a very good car there, and he's pushing hard to try and get the win, of course. And maybe a fraction of that is just a little bit of youth, I'd say, and just jumping in and trying to get the win too early. And it's difficult to say whose fault it is. Just maybe might have ended up in the wall if there wasn't a car in the way anyway. So. I'd say that Canan would have had a very good chance of going on to win that as well.
Yeah, and Paul, these are the two previous winners, of course, pushing pretty hard for a second win. Obviously very important, and you can see just what it means to these guys.
Yeah, I mean, as you quite rightly said, both these guys have just come off wins. They're at the top end of the championship. This is the end of the race, and they're pushing because every point matters. And look at the chassis situation. We've had G-Force and Dallara, and they're pretty even Stevens as well. If anything, the G-Force, even though numerically it's weaker in numbers, is running just that little bit better than the Dallara at the moment. And I think that's going to make a difference, certainly when we come to the Indy 500.
Obviously, Scott Dixon looks like he's in pretty much better shape at the moment than Tony Canan. But looking ahead to Indy, do you think he'll be all right for that?
Oh, without a doubt, yeah. I mean, as the boys have said, it was a big impact and very expensive. On my scale, that's going to be over 300,000.
Yes.
But the car did exactly what it's supposed to do. It looks very spectacular, but the whole thing is designed to crush up around you. And as we saw, Scott stepped out of that car. Okay, unfortunately, Tony didn't. We'll see later how well he is.
And they stayed on their base, no flipping, nothing, you know. I mean,
absolutely
it could have been so much worse.
Yeah. No, the wheels are all tethered on. It's only little bits of bodywork that start flying around. Those were very big accidents at 220 miles an hour, and thankfully it doesn't look like anybody's too bad.
OK, fellas, thank you very much indeed. Right, let's now go then to the closing stages of this race, the Indy Japan 300.
So Scott Sharp, former two-time Trans Am champion. They're going to blow it up a little higher. They've got the blower out there right now.
Yeah, they got the blower up there, and they are trying to blow it up out of there. Of course, if anybody gets that high, they're in trouble anyway. They're not going to miss the fence. So it shouldn't be a big concern because that thing is, that dust is so high that anybody that's up there is already in the fence. They just don't know it yet.
So Scott Sharp, former co-champion of this division. Of course, Felipe Giafone, the Bombardier Rookie of the Year just 2 seasons ago. Won a race at Kentucky last year for Mo Nunn. There was some question, in fact, mid-season, if his contract would be continued this year. But after he won that race at Kentucky, the option was picked up, and they have 2 cars here racing this weekend.
Well, you know, he got a little bit of a bad rap. I mean, he didn't win any races until he got to Kentucky, but he was very consistent.
Competitive in virtually every race he was in.
That's right. But, you know, everybody looks at it as if you don't win, you're not doing the job. Well, let me tell you, he was doing a pretty good job.
Like Tiger Woods, if he doesn't win, there's something wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we still have that blower up there on the racetrack as they'll complete lap 190 this time by, so less than 10 laps will be contested under green to conclude this race.
Yeah, they're telling 1 lap to go, so it'll be 9 laps to go when they take the green flag next time by. So 9 laps, and Giafoni's got to get around 3-lapped cars to get up there, so it's going to be a very difficult thing for him to do, especially since one of those guys is Sam Hornish, and he doesn't like to get out of the way even when he's lapped. So.
Sharp, Giafoni, Unser, Kenny Brack, and Michael Andretti. Those 5 drivers are on the lead lap.
Unser has 1 car between himself and Giafoni, so if he gets around 1 lap car, he's up right behind Giafoni. So you can bet both of those guys have been talking on their radios, telling the guys, those lap cars, to get the heck out of our way.
Look at Hornish sticking his nose right up there behind the rear wing as they come down for the green. And we will have 9 laps to figure this thing out.
Yeah, Giafoni went right to the outside. He's already around Ray. Now he goes to the inside. He looks like he's going to do away with at least 2 of those guys very early on.
He's pedaling as hard as he can pedal right now, and he still has 2 lap cars out in front of him.
Yeah, he didn't make the pass on that 2nd lap car, and that's going to hurt him.
Meanwhile, Scott Sharp continues to open up that gap.
Yeah, Scott Sharp has a great break for him when Giafoni didn't get around that 2nd lap car up there. You take a look at Michael Andretti.
Michael Andretti back in the 5th position.
He's fallen back a little ways behind the cars in front of him, so it doesn't look like he's going to be able to make a run for anybody in front of him either.
Well, they're saying he's in 4th. I said 5th incorrectly. He's in 4th position. Al Jr. is in 5th. So Al lost a position on that restart. And look at this. Oh, 3 wide, almost 4 wide.
That's Kenny Brack. Oh, we got another
crash, and that is going to probably do it.
Jacques Lazier, one of those cars.
Who else is involved? There's the 54 car.
That's Shinji Nakano. So those 2 cars, you're probably right. That's going to pretty much seal the victory for Scott Sharp. Kenny Brack was the guy on the move. He was way back in a 4th or 5th spot on that restart. I think he was in 5th spot. He got a great restart, got around both Giafoni and Al Jr. And moved into 2nd spot. So he had a great run going, but looks like it's going to fall a little short because of this yellow flag.
So Scott Sharp at the right spot at the right time, basically.
Yeah, Kenny Brack, he was. Well, he and Giafoni almost crashed there. Giafoni went to the inside of him, and then Brack pulled down. Giafoni, being very much on the ball, moved down even farther to avoid contact. So both those guys trying to make the pass. You can see Nakano out of the car, and it appears to be okay. Looking around just to see how much damage there is, but
see that neck brace that he wears.
Yeah, not very happy.
Jacques, of course, lost part of the season last year because of an injury when he was injured at
and they're having
Nazareth, and they're still working with him.
Yeah. It's not out of the car yet.
He had that back injury last year at Nazareth.
Yeah, he missed almost the entire season because of that last year. So back injuries have been one of the real nemesis here with these cars the last couple of years.
Well, 5 laps to go, and Rice, I think you're right. We're not going to see the green flag again. Not when they are working with a perhaps injured driver.
Yeah, it doesn't appear likely that they can get this thing going again in time.
Our 8th yellow of the afternoon.
I'm sure Scott Sharp is just as happy to see it another yellow, because Kenny Brack really got a terrific restart and appeared to be running awfully well. But
we're going to see if we have a replay as we go on board now, as they're still working with Jacques Lazier. Well, this is the aftermath.
Yeah, the contact has already been made. Jacques Lazier went in hard with the left rear corner of the car. Nakano with the right rear. It appeared like he just went up, slapped it with the right side, whereas Jacques Lazier had been turned clear around and went in, not straight backwards, but you can see the rear wing is knocked off too. So that means he went in hard enough with the back end that he knocked the wing off and the left rear corner. So.
We still have 4 laps to go, but race control has indicated they will not get back to green, obviously, because they're still working with Jacques Lazier. The cars are still on the racetrack, so Scott Sharp will obviously win this thing under yellow here this afternoon. You know, Larry Rice, it's a doggone shame that this race is going to end under yellow, because we have seen some great competition throughout the afternoon.
Well, it's been great racing. I mean, we've seen some really good racing, some great side-by-side racing through both corners. This is a very technical racetrack. It does give you a chance to do some different things. You get a good run off of turns 1 and 2, and get a good run down into 3 and 4, and we've seen a lot of passing just by doing that. But it's also, you have to be very careful. We've seen a lot of guys slam the fence coming off of turn 4 just because that corner is so much tighter than 1 and 2, and you really have to set the car up to get off of there, get through that corner and get off of there without pushing the front end up into the fence.
As we said, only 5 drivers are on the lead lap. Hornish is back in 6th, a lap off the pace. Weldon 2 laps off the pace in 7th. Also 2 laps off is Takagi in 8th. Ray is 3 laps off the pace in 9th. Robbie Buell is being listed as 12th position, some 8 laps off the pace, but we have Nakano and Lazier that are actually on the scoring monitor above him, but they will drop back behind Buell. So we remain to circle this 1.5-mile oval under yellow late in the proceedings. As you take a look there at the current standings, Sharp, Brack, Giafoni, Andretti, and Unser. Those 5 drivers are on the lead lap. But we have a host of drivers out of this race, and all because of crashes. I don't think we got a mechanical problem to put anybody out this afternoon.
Yeah, I don't remember any right off the top of my head, but there have been a lot of people end up against the concrete here at Motegi, and there's been, you know, Scott Sharp has run a very smart, very smooth race. Looks like he's going to bring it home to victory just by doing that. Kenny Brack, his big downfall was that one early pit stop he made the 2 pit stops ago. He made an early pit stop that put him behind the 8 ball, and he was never able to recover. It looked like after that last green flag, with only 9 laps to go, he had come from 5th to 2nd in just about a little over a lap, and then the crash happened, and that kind of ended his quest.
Well, we have 11 cars still running. 13 cars have been sidelined through crashes, and they're still working with Jacques Lazier. And we will see the white flag being displayed for Mr. Sharp the next time by. He'll pick up his 8th career victory under the yellow.
Well, I'm sure this is not the way Scott Sharp wanted to win this race, but in this business, you take him any way you can get him.
Well, obviously, this will have a significant impact on the point standings going into the Indianapolis 500. There's the white flag, the yellow flag being displayed. Some of the fans displaying the Japanese flag. I tell you, these fans have been great this weekend. They have been, I mean, race fans are tremendous, but they show their appreciation perhaps more than fans in America.
Yeah, Takagi, you know, he had the hometown hero there, had a chance to come away with a big victory. He had some trouble with that one pit stop that put him a couple laps down, and that was all she wrote. He was fast enough all day long. He just got so far behind because of that one pit stop mistake that he never had a chance to win this race.
Well, you saw a glimpse of the Kelly teammates there on the pit wall, ready to salute their driver as he will come under the checkered flag.
Well, those guys have worked long and hard. I'm sure they'll be just as happy as if this thing was going 190 miles an hour under the green when
it'll be a shorter ride home than what it was riding over here.
That's exactly right.
And they go by the crash scene one more time, and the checkered flag will be displayed. And Sam pulls alongside to salute the champion. And as we said earlier, it's a 3-year contract, so we'll be coming back next year, the year after that, and I'm sure with the kind of racing we've seen here this afternoon, will he be here for many years to come.
Yeah, some of those cars that might have trouble getting back on those special skids they made to get on the racetrack. They might have to build some new ones for badly crashes. Some of these cars are.
Some of these parts may stay here in Japan as the cars go back home. Giafone pulls up to salute our winner as Scott waving to a near capacity crowd of over 60,000 people here this afternoon. Think he'll drink some sake in celebration this evening?
I don't know. Kenny Brack offering his congratulations. Everybody pretty happy down there in the Kelly pit crew.
Well, we saw Tom Kelly there in the red shirt behind all these uniform-clad teammates in their yellow and black uniforms, and still thumbs up all the way around the racetrack. And we'll try to hang on here long enough to get a comment from our victor.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to hear his point of view from this racetrack and hear what they did to make that car so much faster the last part of the race.
So the unofficial results showing Scott Sharp and Kenny Brack running 1 and 2, then Giafone, Andretti, and Unser on the lead lap, then Sam Hornish in the 6th position. Dan Weldon comes home in 7th. Then Takagi, Ray, Buell, Nakano, Lazier in 11th and 12th. And as we run through the rest of the field, he just stays out there.
Yeah.
He's not in any hurry to get to victory lane.
Well, he's going to have to stop sooner or later. And, you know, he's enjoying this. I mean, it's been a while. He's a journeyman. He's been around this sport. He's won a lot of races, but it's been a little bit of a dry spell for him, and he wants to take advantage of this.
And he came out of full-bodied race cars. He was a 2-time Trans Am champion, and that's not necessarily the path that most of these guys take to get to the Indy 500.
No, not really, but he's, you know, this Kelly racing team has been an excellent team. Delphi has been with them since they've been in the Indy Racing League. They've been a great combination. Tom Kelly's always put the best equipment out there, and obviously it paid off for them today. They were very consistent, they were fast, and they were faster near the end of the race. That was the important thing.
Basically, you know, I've heard drivers say I'd rather be lucky than good. He was in a position, he kept his nose clean. He didn't have the fastest race car this afternoon, but the fastest race cars got knocked out in crashes, and he was in a position to take advantage of that.
You have to put yourself in a position to win, and he's done that, and he was in a position to win.
Look out, here come the donuts.
He's going to try,
what? Well,
better to stop.
Guess not. I guess not. You saw that crowd of people, and I thought for sure he's going to. There's Tom Kelly up to greet him. We'll get Jack Arute down there in that crowd.
Yeah, a lot of congratulations from everybody on the team. Those guys are pretty happy. Like I said, it's been a little bit of a dry spell. They've always had very competitive cars, always been up near the front, but it's been a little while since they won, and they're happy to be back in victory lane.
Look.
He said, "Oh my gosh." Yeah, he's a pretty happy guy. Probably his most disappointing.
There's Tom
moment.
Kelly. There's the car owner. He and his dad are involved in the ownership of this team. Stands up on top of the race car to accept the congratulations from all the crew members. Some of his teammates' crew members are down there as well.
Well, they all work out of the same shop. They're all family, so they're obviously all going to celebrate. He won't even take his helmet off.
He's going to take that helmet off.
Right.
He wouldn't come in. He took about 4 victory laps, I think, or it seemed like he took that many, and he's not going to take the helmet off. We want to see your face, Scott. Take your helmet off.
Yeah, he's enjoying the moment. Enjoying the moment.
Another hug from Tom Kelly. Tom is an auto dealer with a number of car dealerships in northern Indiana. We're being told a right arm and left leg problem for Tony Canan. He's being airlifted out of here to the local hospital.
You know,
trying to get in there to get a comment from Scott. Jack, are you in position down there?
How much of a tough run was that last lap, though, under caution?
Well, coming back for that first restart was a little nerve-wracking, Jack. I tell you, I just, lots been going on in my life. I just putting it all for the man above. And put it all in his hands today. I didn't know where I was going to try to do my best every lap, and he took care of me. I prayed for everybody out there. I hope everyone's all right.
Now, wins the last race before Indy are getting to be commonplace for you. How do you change the Indy outcome of those records?
That's right. I forgot we won Nazareth last year, but you know, we had a great race at Indy last year. Tom did a great job with the strategy. We did everything we were supposed to do, and fortunately the motor blew towards the end there, but we were in a good position. We just need to make it about another 40 laps this year. But a great job with the whole team. These guys are awesome. I mean, Toyota engine was killer. You know, to win here for Futaba and Delphi is like a dream come true.
So once again, building some momentum going into Indianapolis, and that will be our next outing as we come to you live from the Motor Speedway on the 25th of May. You take a look at the point standings with Scott Sharp now 4 points better than Tony Canan, who is being airlifted to the hospital, and Felipe Giaffoni in third position. This has been a presentation of ESPN in cooperation with the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Join us Sunday, May 25th for live coverage of the 87th running of the Indianapolis 500. For Larry Rice, I'm Gary Lee. Thanks for joining us. So long from Motegi, Japan.
So Scott Sharp it is who takes victory there. And Paul, I'd just like to get your thoughts first of all. Obviously a deserved success. Somehow a downbeat note on a race finish there when you under yellow and it's all processional.
Yeah, when it finishes on a yellow, it's a bit contrived to say the least. You like to see a bit of a dash for the cash, as they call it in America. But you know, when you've had an accident like that and somebody's in their car and not able to get out,
yeah,
sorry, you've got to do it that way, and it's the best thing for everybody.
And overall, your thoughts about racing in Japan at this unique track?
Well, we said it was going to be difficult. It was going to be an interesting race. It's a great facility, as I said at the start, but it punishes you big time if you make a mistake, and I'm afraid we had 7 major mistakes. And Mark, you watching the race unfold there, 1 or 2 interesting lessons, I would have thought, for you sitting here watching it at a distance.
Yeah, the lessons are if you make a mistake it hurts, and I think that people have shown that. So it'll be a disappointing race for some people. The people who maybe had the car to win the race, there were a few people through the last week anyway who thought they had a chance and have ended up not even getting any points out of it, and it shows that in the final points table. And I'd say Scott Sharp winning the first race and not having a DNF for the last 2 races will be the most disappointed. He's probably had one of the best cars out there for the beginning 3 races, and to finish how he has is a big disappointment for him.
Let's just get the reaction from Rob here about what we've just seen. Not a good result for Honda.
No,
you know, their track, and it's their sort of base, if you like, and it's not quite what they would have wanted.
Yeah, I mean, and when the pressure's on, they don't seem to be able to get the win at their home track, as we were talking before. They never did it in the kart days, and they haven't done it today. So yeah, a bit of a disappointment. Nice for Scott Sharp to get the win though, because he going into the 500 now with high hopes.
Yes, and obviously we reflect on Scott Dixon and Tony Canan, that incident involving them. Thankfully, it does look as if they were okay.
Sure, and we hope they both get out for the Indy 500. You know, Canan's got a little bit more injured than Scott Dixon, but hopefully they're going to be okay for the big one coming up.
What did you make of this particular race? We were saying earlier it was a little fragmented. It was hard to get into it. Did you feel that it all sort of pulled together in the end?
Well, yeah, we had a lot of yellows. We had some shunts and so on. So it was tough to to get into a bit of a groove with it. It's it's a fast racetrack, and maybe it showed that they didn't have that much running at the track prior to going out to Japan. First time they've gone so far and gone racing as a group of teams. So maybe that showed.
Okay, Mark, let's just go ahead to you and think about what's coming up. Racing at Indy has got to be some sort of highlight for any driver.
Yeah, we only found out about it about 3 weeks ago, I think, so it's going to be a big challenge for us, being able to drive around there, learning what the track's going to be like.
Yeah.
It's a huge thing as far as people going to step up into the Indy Racing League, and it's just a big thank you to everybody to be able to get that kind of race in the series.
When are you actually going to be racing? When are you going to be out there on the circuit?
Well, we'll get a test in on Thursday this week, and we'll be actually racing the Saturday prior to the 500, which is the 17th of May, 2 o'clock so it'll be a nice warm day, hopefully. And
terrific day for you, though.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Going back to this race we've just seen, Paul, we saw Thomas Schechter, again, thankfully okay, but involved in an incident there which, again, could have been quite nasty. Was that just youthful inexperience, or could that have happened to anybody?
I don't think there's too much inexperience from Thomas, because he's had quite a few crashes now, so I think he's a fairly experienced crasher. In all seriousness, he is driving very, very well. He's driving better this year than he did last year, because he had last year. It's obvious. However, he was hustling hard. He was at the front. He wanted to make his point, and it just broke away from him.
Yeah, and just final thought on our winner today?
As we said, it was an end of yellow race. I think if it had run, then Scott Dixon had the measure of Tony, and I think they're going to be the dominant force in this series this year.
And we understand, we've just heard, Tony Canan has fractured that arm, so that is bad news, because he's going to be out for a while.
Depends how he's fractured it. In America, they are marvels at putting self-tapping screws and plates in your leg, arms and body, and then carrying you into the car. It depends. If he's not hurt it too badly, he'll be all right.
OK, thank you, fellas. So that's just about it then for today. Some fast and furious action at Motegi. Our congratulations, of course, to our winner. And a very big thank you as well to Mark Taylor for joining us. He, of course, is back to Indianapolis tomorrow. And his next race, of course, the new Infinity Pro Series Freedom 100 event supporting the Indy 500. Very best of luck to you there, Mark. Make it 3 wins from 3 starts for us. And as ever, of course, my thanks to Rob and to Paul for their post-race comments, and indeed during the action itself. So the next stop on the Indy Racing League schedule then, it is the big one, the Indianapolis 500. We'll be bringing you full live flag-to-flag coverage of the sporting event with the largest one-day crowd anywhere in the world. Make sure you have the date in your diary. It's live and exclusive here on Sky Sports 3, Sunday, May the 25th. Build-up starts at 4:30 p.m. Don't miss it. And for now, we're going to leave you with some of the really great action from today's Indy Japan 300, including a couple of key moves. From all of us for now, it's goodbye.